live. We got Harry W. We got Richie from Jets Media, Matt O'Leary, Iowa Jets fan, we're in the house. We got Dom C in the house. We got Steve, live, CEO of the Jet Lounge. So I knew I'd get rich on my channel. See what's going on. Yeah, there we go.
Jets by $1 million today.
Yeah. We are. Okay, we got all that working out now. If you notice, I'm a little promo happy. I like to play a lot of promos as I'm nervously getting ready. Maybe I should actually prepare better and not have to do that. But you know what? My promos are fun. I put a lot of work into them. So what the hell, right? Harlan, you were number one, my friend. Thank you for being here right from the start. The second I set up the stream, I checked things out, and then I noticed that I had somebody in the waiting room, and it was you, and I appreciate you. There's my friend Mike. Man, I can't wait to meet you in Florida, brother. You're such a good dude. I can't wait to meet you, man. When I'm in Florida, we're going to get together, and we're going to get some cocktails. Chiefs live. What's going up, brother? How you doing? The Super Bowl champion himself. Well, the fan. The fan is here. Super Bowl fan in the house. He has been to the promised land, and he's been where we're trying to be. Daniel Murphy, what's going on? The review, the intro music jams. You like that music? I don't know where to get that music. That music is well, I know where to get it. It's in where I created the promo. It was an option for music. I don't know if it's legal to use it anywhere outside that software, that program. I think that they own certain music backgrounds that you get to use with their promos. But it is pretty cool. And so why are we here? What are we talking about? Well, we got more combine stuff today. So that's always exciting. It's always fun to watch some of these specimens. Warm up and play. And to me, it's more bad news sometimes than good news. And here's my thinking. We got this incredible evaluator of talent, Dom C. And on top of that, aside from just Dom C, we have Rusty Spooner, and we have a very passionate fan base. There's a lot of you. And there's Play Like a Jet, there's Luke, and then there's just all the guys, right? That find the guys that they like. All of you in the chat suggest people, and we look at them and we fall in love with these players. Now, particularly, Dom C, will point out these great players. And then what happens is we have the combines come, and then all of Dom C's secrets, the things we don't want other teams to know, the things that we think only we're noticing or hope we're only noticing, guys that are projected to go in the third and fourth round, crush it. Like Dom C is all over it. He nails it, because then these guys come to the combines and they crush it. And the problem is that brings competition, because then they move up on the boards and suddenly we can't get guys where we wanted to get them or we were hoping to get them. So there's a bunch of Dom C's guys that were guys he thought we can get in the fourth and fifth round even, that are now likely not to make it past the third round because of the combines. And every time one of them runs or something, and they like Owen Papoi, or Papo, however you want to pronounce his name, that's Dom C's linebacker, perfect fit for us, right? Nobody knew him. Well, people knew him, but he was projected to go way back, easily. We might even be able to sneak him in the fourth round, but third for sure. Now I don't know. He ran faster than any linebacker or safety on Friday. The fastest guy there, and he drew all kinds of attention. So now we got to worry. Anyway, let's welcome some more people. Did I say hello to Daniel Murphy? Daniel Murphy's here. Tony Alexio is here. He doesn't think we need a quarterback. We just got to re-sign Strebler, and we'll be fine. Or just stay with Strebler. Who that dude? Okay, we got some Anolans. All right, yeah, don't we got to know? We're tired of waiting too. We are. He's got to make a decision. There's nothing to do with Saints fans or Jets fans. It has to deal with that he's got to make a decision. He could play for Carolina. He could play for New Orleans. He could probably play for Atlanta. Just because they're not as public about it doesn't mean that Atlanta's not going to swoop in and make some kind of ridiculous offer. And there's the Jets. And those are the teams, really, unless there's some kind of, dark Trojan horse hidden. Like people look out for Miami. People are looking over their shoulder. Miami might say this guy too is a tackle away from the end of his career. We need a guy. So there's no way to know 100% for sure what's going to happen, but we're getting there. It has to happen before the tampering period. It really does. Like Rodgers is the first domino to fall. So Rodgers needs to come out with his decision, and then the dominoes fall. And I don't blame Derek Carr's agent. It's a little bit of a risk, but not much of a risk, because it might take away one player in the game by waiting, like the Jets, for example. If Rodgers says, I want to go to the Jets. But if Rodgers says he's staying with Green Bay, or if Rodgers says he's retiring, Derek Carr's agent's a genius, because it right away makes him the number one available person out there without dispute or without argument. And then it's going to be a bidding war. And he might end up getting as much as $40 million. I don't know how the Saints are going to pay for it. I honestly don't. Maybe you do. I know the Saints can clear off some space, but it feels like they're building up a lot of dead cap, because when I look at overthecap.com, it's like, yeah, they can get out of that contract, but it's going to be 4 years if they do it post June 1st of $4 million or $10 million right up front, and it's going to be hard to manage a team moving forward when you have 6-7 guys like that. And suddenly you have 2 or 3 years of 25-30 million in dead cap hit space. So if New Orleans could navigate that, if they can get Derek Carr and hold on to their key players, if they can navigate that, that GM deserves to be the best, named the best GM in the NFL. If you could spend that much money and keep piling on money, there's so many players, and push it down the road, but make it work and compete and be competitive year after year. That GM needs to be studied. Like every other GM needs to learn how to manage money from that GM. So maybe you have more insight than I. I don't know, but yours, I see you're saying in the chat, they're notorious for kicking the can down the road. But at some point you got to pay, right? I mean, or is it just you keep doing it until the dead cap builds up to the point where you have 50 million of dead cap, and then you just call a rebuild and you tank the season, you get the number one pick, you get your new young franchise quarterback in 2026, whenever it is, and that's the rebuild, and you clear out all the dead cap. Maybe they're like they'll absorb it all and cut everybody and absorb it pre-June 1st. You just crush that year and you rebuild. Maybe that's their strategy. I don't know. Or maybe they're going to figure out how to just keep it going. Keep kicking it down the road. I don't know, but we're all going to find out. I can't pronounce your first name, but Scout says if the picks are conditional for Rodgers, playoff win, AFC Championship game, Super Bowl, trade seems like a no-brainer. Agree. Well, I'm not going to lie. Me and my brother both agreed when we did our top 10 quarterbacks the Jets to pursue in the offseason. We both ranked Aaron Rodgers number one as the quarterback we wanted. The gap between Rodgers and Derek Carr is not that big for me anymore. It's still Aaron Rodgers, but I have a lot of concerns. Nobody comes without concerns. Nobody, right? So the concerns with Aaron Rodgers is his last 3 years, if you average them out, were amazing, but his last season, it could be the receivers. I know we want to believe that. And we're saying, okay, he had rookie receivers and he had a bad thumb, but he's also 39. And do we know 100%? Are we 100% confident that his skills aren't deteriorating at 39? Just because Brady played till he was 45 does not mean that everybody else is the same and can play till they're 45. We can't take one of the biggest outliers in the history of the NFL and use that as our evidence that Aaron Rodgers is fine and his skills aren't declining at 39 because Tom Brady. Like Tom Brady's one person. And I'm not saying I don't want Aaron Rodgers. He's still my number one if we get him at like for conditional picks. Like I love the conditional pick thing, especially like the pick for next year, conditional that he stays another year. If he's a 1 year and out guy, maybe a second rounder this year. I mean, it'll hurt. Ugh, I want that second round pick, but I think you have to do it, especially if the cap hit isn't bad, because I know the way Rodgers' cap hit might not be as bad as Derek Carr's would. I know that it might be like only like 35, 40 million, or like 35 million or something over the 2 years. And then we take a little bit of a dead cap hit after that. So, I would agree with this, that if we can get him for this, we got to do it. But at the same time, I have those concerns, and I have the concerns for Derek Carr, right? Not his age, not last season. I really am not concerned about that. I just did a video on it. It's out right now. I'm not concerned about last season. Not with that coach. Not with that coach got rid of Cutler in Denver. He shipped away the whole team. He destroyed that organization. He came into the Raiders in year one, totally destroyed them, and went right into character and got rid of another veteran quarterback. So that's not why I worry about Derek Carr. Not last year's performance, even though last year's performance would be the best Jets quarterback performance we've had in 20 years. It's not what I worry about with Derek Carr. It's a small sample, him playing in the cold weather, but it's a sample. And I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sit there and people want to be black or white. They're either saying it means everything, he can't play in the cold, or it means nothing, that's stupid. I don't live like that. I'm kind of like, I'm not going to sit there and say Derek Carr can't play in cold weather because of 10 games and this one little stat in a 9-year career. But at the same time, I'm not going to lie and say I'm not at all concerned. Like it's possible he's not as good in cold weather. I mean, the numbers show that from that small sample. And Carr might be a guy where his skills deteriorate at 32, 33, 30, like many players before him. So there's always concerns. Yes, and like there are people say, aren't you concerned about a player the Raiders don't want anymore? A little bit, yeah. Because as much as I'm convinced it's that crappy coach, the rest of the organization went with that. And they released Derek Carr and got nothing back for him. And when you look at his stats for the last 9 years and look at his career, that's nuts. That's insanity. It's pure insanity to me. In a league so desperate for quarterbacks, it's insanity. I don't get it. I don't understand it. So there's doubts about, and then if we went down the list of the other quarterbacks, we all know those concerns. We all know what those concerns are, right? Jimmy G can't stay healthy. Is he overrated? Is he a system quarterback only? Which the system quarterback only doesn't make sense to me because we play his system. So it's like, who cares if he's a system quarterback? He fits our system, but he doesn't stay on the field. So, I mean, we can't deny that. Can't ignore the fact that he doesn't stay on the field. And then everybody else is just a bigger step down. Like I'm going to say Jimmy G healthy is not in the same tier as Derek Carr and Aaron Rodgers, but he's a tier above everybody else. He is. He's been to a Super Bowl. He's been to an NFC Championship game. If you look at his quarterback ratings, they're very high. Like I don't understand why people are brainwashed to think that Jimmy G, when healthy, isn't good. His thing, it's only about health with him. That's definitely the fear or the worry about a guy like Jimmy G. Tony Alex said, thanks for the super chat. Who is our best quarterback under contract? Thanks. Well, is Streveler under contract? I think he might be. I think we put the future thing on him. So now it's between Streveler and Zach Wilson. This is like a trick question. Look, when Zach has been at his best, he's a better passer and he's better than Streveler. The problem with Zach, he's the most inconsistent quarterback that we've seen. Like he went from in that Pittsburgh game going, oh my God, we have our quarterback, right? And then last year in Tennessee, like he's had moments where it's like, oh my God, we have a quarterback. And then he's had moments where it's like he's not even functional in any capacity. He's completely dysfunctional. And then Streveler came in and did really well. But also, while he was doing well because of his ability to run with the ball, he also showed that he's a horrendously bad passer. We should have had a touchdown when he came into the game. Now, I'm not going to complain too much because Zach couldn't even move the ball. But Streveler literally lost us a touchdown by underthrowing a wide open player in the middle. I forgot the player, but it should have been a touchdown. So who do we have the best chance to win with? We might have a better chance right now, opening day, to win with Streveler than Zach Wilson, if it's the Zach Wilson that finished the season. The Zach Wilson that finished the season is the absolute worst quarterback in the NFL. Like, he's not even functional as a human being, player. He's with the yips, cannot throw 5-yard passes, a total mess, a shipwreck. Whereas Streveler, at least you could run the Wildcat all day and maybe win the way Denver used to win with Tebow. But does that mean that I would hold on to Streveler over Zach, all things being equal with money and everything like that? No, because Zach still has that potential. He still has shown he can do it. Somebody might get him through this mental barrier, and he might actually end up being an okay quarterback. Whereas Streveler, I think, I'm sorry, buddy, I love you, but I think there's a ceiling on Streveler that, is far lower than the ceiling of Zach Wilson. Even though it's not likely Zach is ever going to be a Jets starter. Like, I don't see that unfolding unless maybe Rodgers for 1 year and then he looks amazing in practice and he wins the job somehow, or unless, because Derek Carr would be a longer-term contract and Zach will be gone by the time it's over, or unless somebody gets hurt. Whoever we sign at quarterback gets injured, Zach comes in and does really well, gets better each week, and it was just needed the third year. And then all of a sudden we realize we have a young quarterback. And then it gets really complicated and tricky if we have Derek Carr for long term and then Zach, he gets hurt, but Zach looks amazing. And now we have that whole dilemma. But that's always a good dilemma to have. Like, Derek Carr comes back healthy, Zach Wilson looks great. That's a great problem, because there are teams in this world that will happily relieve us of that problem. And there'll be a lot of draft capital that comes with that. Jeremy Russell's coffee away again. I realized there's kind of a void on Sunday morning. For a long time we had the pleasure of what's his name? Frankie. I didn't mean disrespect by that when I said what's his name, but we had the pleasure of Frankie for a long time. And on Sunday mornings, coffee with Frankie, and we don't have the pleasure of having that anymore available to us. So, if I could substitute that in right now for people, that's great. But I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get something to someone. Someone is asking me for something, so I'm doing it here while I'm talking to you. So this could be, I'm not going to steal the name, but this, it could be, Coffee Chaos. It's really good. I just came up with that. It could be Coffee Chaos. Except I need a cup of coffee right now, and it's too late because I went live, and there's no way for me to get it. And I think Jocelyn's still in bed. I'm not going to wake her up to get me a coffee. We need to call Green Bay and tell them we need an answer from Rodgers now. This is getting silly. It is getting silly. What I don't like is the drama of, and I said this in a video today again. Is it really? Oh, thanks. Someone said I look thin. Thank you. I'm working really hard for that. Is it really necessary that this life decision? And he's being all aggressive and attacking people like me or anybody with an opinion. I'll take my time. It's my personal life, and it's my life is important to me, and I got to make a decision. Yeah, bozo, but it magically has to be within days of the tampering period. That's when you're magically going to know. It's your brain works that way, that it's magically going to know what you want to do, just right in the nick of time before tampering. I mean, I'm sorry, but Green Bay was eliminated from the playoffs during the regular season. It's been a long time now. That's a long time. Even to make a major life decision, it's a long time. It's a long time to decide, do I want to retire or play? Now, if it took him another 2 months and he doesn't decide and we have to go on and sign Carr, fine. But if he magically was to come out and say, now it's Wednesday with 4 days to spare, and now I know what I want to do. It seems a little weird and cosmic that it just happened to work out, that he knows what he wants to do just in time. So I'm sorry, but he just feels like a little bit of a diva to me. I'm sorry. I mean, I don't know if everyone agrees with that, but I just feel like this is getting a little, if it was anybody else, like if this was another player that was like in this exact situation as Carr, as far as Rodgers, I think people would be calling him a diva. Don't you think? Maybe just a little bit. I think he gets a lot of leeway for this. Can you imagine if you're a Green Bay fan? If I'm a Green Bay fan, I'm like, just get this guy out of here. Just tell him we hate you. We don't want you. And if you play, you're going to ride the bench. We're done. Because you're not winning us a Super Bowl anyway. You're done. Because they don't have the team around them. They need to rebuild. They need to move on. I mean, am I crazy to think that way? I don't know. I mean, I'm just tired of it. Is that O'Leary in there? Wait, let me see. Is that O'Leary? Oh, wait a second. I want to make him a moderator so bad. Add a standard moderator. There we go. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm getting a little frustrated with it. So for those of you saying let's just sign Carr now, I'll tell you what. If we get any and I'm sure that this is the truth, and I if I'm Joe Douglas, I would have done this, and I'm sure this happened. If I was a gambling man, I'm sure JD, if he's getting along well with Carr, and Carr really seriously wants to come here, if this is his first choice or it's very close, and he's saying to them, I really would definitely love to be a Jet. I hope at the very least that JD said to him, please don't do anything with anyone else without letting us know. Like, in other words, don't do anything without letting us know. So if you're about to ink a deal with Carolina or the Saints, call us and tell us we're about to sign a deal. You have 10 minutes to tell us yes or no. Because I personally think it is absolutely insane if we don't have a decision from Rodgers and we're put in that position. I'm not saying we're going to be, but if we were put in that position, we have to know, because there is no way we don't sign Carr in that moment, because we're going to gamble on Aaron Rodgers. But from what you said before, it was a great suggestion for if you told me Rodgers conditional picks, like a second round pick this year and a conditional next year, depending on what he does, I don't think it's going to take a first round pick. I think people just are jumping to that conclusion. You have to understand that if Aaron Rodgers calls Green Bay and says, I want out, I want to trade, and here are the two teams or the one team I want to go to, they have no leverage. They have no leverage. They don't. They don't have the leverage. What are they going to do? Say, no, we're going to go against what Rodgers wants? Then he retires and they get stuck with money you wouldn't believe in dead cap space. Right? Or what? They're going to keep him on the bench? Pay him $50 million to be on the bench? They have no leverage. If he says he doesn't want to play there, their leverage is gone. As long as Derek Carr is still there, please let him be when Rodgers makes this decision. We have leverage if it's true that Derek Carr wants to join us. We have the leverage. So do I think it's going to take a first round pick? No, I don't. And I'm not alone, because I wouldn't say that if I was alone, because I'm not courageous enough to do that. I don't have the courage to come out and say that and be the only one to stand on that hill. I don't. I'll admit that right now. But I've seen a lot of experts say it. A lot of insiders say it, though. A lot of analysts on TV, a lot of people that are being really level-headed about it said that the Green Bay does not have the leverage to ask for a number one pick for a 39-year-old who can't make up his mind if he wants to play football or not. And who might not get us past a year. Now, that's the conditional part, but the conditional better be that we go deep into the playoffs, like maybe the AFC Championship game, And then we give him and he wants to come back for that second year. And then maybe if we give him that first round pick, can I really complain? After the last 10 years, 11 years, you're going to tell me AFC championship game. Am I willing to put that stipulation on there? I think anybody would be nuts not to. Okay, fine. Get us to the AFC championship game. And that stipulation could be there. But that's a huge stretch. That's a huge stretch that I don't even think Green Bay would want. I think Green Bay would rather just work out a guaranteed package to know what they're getting so they could plan their rebuild and not sit there and wait a year to see what they're going to get. I don't know. But we have to make it. Look, the decision has to come. It has to come. The clock is ticking. The clock is ticking, and we need to know. And here's the thing. Like I said, and I said this in the beginning for people who joined us, and disagree with me all you want. I mean, we're never going to agree on everything. In my opinion, there is not enough gap between Derek Carr and Aaron Rodgers for us to bend over backwards to wait and take risks for Aaron Rodgers. There's just not. I am not convinced. He is 39. I do not know for sure that his skills are not eroding. I do not know that for sure. His wide receivers were an issue. He had a hurt thumb. I get it, but he's also 39. There are questions. And if you look at his play last year and you look at Derek Carr's play last year, there's not such a big gap. There really isn't. Both of them are better quarterbacks than they were last year for different reasons, in my opinion. And I'm not like trying to settle and say, well, Derek Carr is good enough. No, I think Derek Carr is in a special tier. He's in that tier 2 in the NFL. There's the elite guys, and then there's the tier 2, and those are all the guys that if you put the right players around them, you could win Super Bowls, like Eli Manning, like Joe Flacco, like Matt Ryan getting to the Super Bowl. Like there's a tier of players that if you put the right team around them, and we potentially are the right team to put around them. These aren't just, these are good players. Garrett Wilson got 1,100 yards and 83 receptions without a quarterback. We literally had the 32nd quarterback play in the NFL. And as a rookie, this kid came in and got 83 receptions and 1,100 yards. He is going to be elite. If you watched him from the first pass he caught, and I was 10 feet away from Matt O'Leary when it happened, 10 feet away from Richie when it happened. All these guys that got me into this. I was sitting next to them when we got to see the first play that Garrett Wilson basically told the world of Jet fans, Jet Nation, I am here and I am real. We saw the play. He didn't get the first down, but boy, he made it close. And it was spectacular. And all of our eyebrows went up. We all looked at each other. Buffalo was there too. He's right behind me, gunning. Everybody. We were all there together, and we all watched it together. We watched the birth of Garrett Wilson. And he is not just, he's going to be a good WR1. Elite. Where do you think Justin Jefferson started his rookie year? Where do you think these great wide receivers were their rookie year? If you stuck them on the Jets, you think they're doing better than 83 receptions and 1,100 yards with the quarterback play we had? I wouldn't believe you if you told me that. If without looking at his numbers, if you told me what was Garrett Wilson's numbers, he was great. He was great. He did great. What were his numbers based on the play of our quarterbacks? I would not believe you if you told me he got 1,100 yards and 83 receptions. I would say that is not possible. Not with the quarterback play we had. He's amazing. And when our quarterback play was good and like decent, and our when Zach was not in his head and he was whipping the ball around in Pittsburgh, Garrett Wilson was unstoppable. He was unstoppable. They couldn't cover him. They knew he was getting the ball. It was play after play. They could not cover him. That is Justin Jefferson type of greatness. That is Hall of Fame, future Hall of Fame type of greatness. If Garrett Wilson stays healthy, we have a potential Hall of Fame wide receiver. I am saying it, and I will stand on that hill. And Sauce Gardner, He was in the Hall of Fame before we drafted him, in my mind. Like, I knew, and a lot of us knew. Frankie knew first. Not going to hide that. Frankie from Flatbush called it first. There was no doubt about this kid. There was no doubt, and there was no doubt now. He is the elite cornerback of the NFL, and as long as he stays healthy, he will be the elite cornerback for years. So why am I saying all this? Because I'm making the point that we have the team to make a tier 2 quarterback, a Derek Carr tier 2 quarterback, a Super Bowl champion, like the Giants made Eli Manning a Super Bowl champion twice. And guess what? Matthew Stafford, tier 2 quarterback. He's not a tier 1. He's not Josh Allen. He's not Russell Wilson in his prime. He's not Lamar in 2019. He's not Aaron Rodgers in his prime. Give me a break. He's really good. He's like Derek Carr. He's really good. And someone said, oh, but, much better stats than Derek Carr. No, he didn't. Someone actually said that. They're the identical stats. The identical stats. So, I mean, it's crazy to think that we can't put a team around Derek Carr and make a Super Bowl run. Look at the offense for the Raiders and how many points they scored per game with Derek Carr most of his career. And then consider that with our defense last year and the average points per game we gave up. And we're pretty good. If you look at that, every indicator, everything you do, if you dig in, shows it. But you know what shows it more than me for anything? Watch Derek Carr play football. Stop with this is how he plays in the club. Watch him play football. I'm talking to you on an app called YouTube where it allows you access to watch Derek Carr play football. And you tell me a quarterback that we've had ever, because it's been over 40 years for me, a quarterback that we had that throws the ball with better touch, better accuracy, and deep down the field. Tell me who the quarterback we had to do that was. And I love Chad Pennington. I loved him. But 30 yards in the air down the field, in stride to his receivers? No, I don't remember that. Ken O'Brien had it for a little bit. I thought we had our guy, but he tore his rotator cuff. It messed up his whole career. We came close. I don't remember Namath. I can't speak to it. Watch Derek Carr play football. Stop with all the other nonsense distractors. Right? Because the truth is we can never replicate the same exact situation. You can never replicate the same situation. And if you don't think Derek Carr is a good football player, you don't know how to watch football. Like, you don't know what you're watching. Because how could you watch the Jets for the last 10 years or any team and any quarterback? Then how could you do that? Watch Derek Carr play football and not see. You're going to watch sometimes where he gets sacked. Every quarterback gets sacked. Then you're saying there's no quarterback good enough to play in this league. It's crazy. Yeah, when you don't block for a quarterback, he curls up and he gets tackled. Yes, he has downsides. That's why he's not elite. That's why he's not elite. And that's why I'm saying he's not elite. And that's why I'm saying he's not a guy that carries you. He's not like a Tom Brady, who you could totally have a roster turnover over the years, 3-4 roster turnovers, and they're still winning Super Bowls because he literally carries them on his back through the playoffs. Literally. He's not Tom Brady. No one's claiming that. But you know what? Neither is a 39-year-old Aaron Rodgers. He's not. And Aaron Rodgers, and I'm not criticizing him for it, he won a Super Bowl, but he won one. And there's a reason for that. Because he's a great, great quarterback, yes. But if you don't put the perfect players around him, he couldn't win a Super Bowl. So any quarterback isn't going to need the right players around him. Everybody thinks, oh, Aaron Rodgers, we automatically won a Super Bowl. Why? There were a lot of those Green Bay teams that had good defenses. Derek Carr didn't have that. Derek Carr had the 30th best ranked defense in the league, averaged out overall in his 9-year career. He had a horrible defense his entire career. Controversies, coach changes. I mean, wake up, but watch him play. Deny it. Watch him throw passes that are in stride 30 to 40 yards downfield. Watch him do it. Thanks for the super chat, Tony. Love you, man. Green Bay should give us picks for the dead cat pick. I don't know if I'd go that far, Tony, but thanks for the super chat. But yes, there's already a price you're paying for Aaron Rodgers beyond the salary for the next 2 years. And we don't know. The whole deal might come with the restructure, but there's some of it you can't get out of because it was done as bonus. There's no way out of it. There's no restructuring allowed. The money can be spread out. There can be more void years, but it's there. It's real. There's $30 million or so there in 25-26 that has to be dealt with. And if we take him on our team, we are the owner of that debt. I don't know the details of it. I just know there's a cost to it. Sauce is the number one ever. Well, let's put it this way. It's not a joke, Matt, I don't think, or it's not ridiculous to start comparing Sauce Gardner to Darrelle Revis. And just that is enough to show you how special Sauce Gardner is. The fact that we can't be laughed out of a room, or we shouldn't laugh each other out of a room for starting to say, I think Sauce Gardner could be as good as Revis was, right? We don't have to even say better, but just to start saying it in the same sentence. Like, just to ask the question, is Sauce Gardner going to be better than Revis? Is he going to end up better than him? And have it not be that you're laughed out of the room is all you have to say about Sauce Gardner, to know that we've got some, to know just how special of a player we have. And I wasn't even done, guys. I got distracted. We have Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner, and that's not all we have. There's a guy that if he comes back healthy, and I think he's going to, because in today's technology with medicine, you come back from ACLs, and he's already on a tread running and looking great. It might not be right away, but Breece Hall, like if we sign Carr for the next 4 or 5 years, we're going to have Breece Hall. Breece Hall. People thought I was nuts. You're jumping ahead of yourself. Last year in the offseason, I was saying, and Steve from the Jet Lounge was the only guy standing there with me tall and saying it. I was saying, look, this guy might not just be a good running back. This guy might be Adrian Peterson type dominant. Like this guy might be the big name of our era, like one of the big names, like Henry. You know, you talk about these big, amazing running backs. You talk about Adrian Peterson and Ezekiel when he was in his prime, or, you know, like, and then you could go down the list of all the great quarterbacks. Curtis Martin, right? Emmitt Smith. He's the greatest. Barry Sanders, he's the greatest, but maybe not that tier, but what about Forte? What about Chris Johnson, right? Like all these other great running backs of their time were for 4 or 5 years, even Le'Veon Bell in Pittsburgh. Breece Hall was playing that part. He wasn't just, he's good. He was playing the part of elite NFL running back in his generation. Like he was, as a rookie, he was looking like that. 5.6 or 5.8 yards per carry as a rookie. His first 8 games against, even with before AVT got hurt, that offensive line had issues. We had Dwayne Brown can't lift his arm above his shoulder. We had Max Mitchell, a rookie, in blocking. We had Laken Tomlinson playing like one of the bottom guards in the league. And Breece Hall was still tearing it up. Can you imagine if Becton comes back? Can you imagine if we draft Paris or Peter or Pete or any of those guys? And Max Mitchell, who played well, comes back, and now we have depth in tackle. And suddenly, I don't know what's going to happen, but AVT's coming back. Can you imagine how good this kid can be? This is a special team. We have to embrace and enjoy this. We have to acknowledge it. We have to experience it. We have a special team. And Derek Carr would, without argument, if you know anything about football, there's no space in my mind to negotiate what Matt is saying in this comment. He is immediately the second best quarterback in our history when he puts that uniform on. You cannot say that he is not as good as Eli Manning. and be taken seriously in any way. Like his numbers when you compare him to Stafford are the same. Is he perfect? No. Does he look bad sometimes? Yes. Does he throw too many interceptions, combined fumble turnovers? Yes. That's why he's not elite. Because he's a guy who threw over 4,000 yards 4 to 5 seasons in a row. If he didn't have the interceptions or the fumbles, we'd be talking about him as elite. So yes, that's why he's not elite. That's why he's only in the category of a Stafford and Eli Manning and a Matt Ryan and a Joe Flacco. That's why he's in that level. That's why he's on that tier. But guess what? With the players we have, that's all we need. And if we end up getting Aaron Rodgers, I will be as excited as everybody else. But I'm saying don't think it's automatic. It's not automatic. I don't know. I don't know how many years this guy has. I'm not sure. So, and we don't know his skills aren't eroding, just like we don't know for sure with Carr either. I'm not saying I know for sure, but he's 31. So I'm not sitting there panicking that his skills are eroding. At least we know what we're getting. And at least we'll resolve the issue for 4 to 5 years. We'll have a solid quarterback for 4 to 5 years, and all of our attention could shift to everything else. All of our attention, when the cap goes up, whatever it is, who are re-signing, future drafts, everything can be focused on everything else to keep building around that young core of superstars. Where are the needs? What do we have to do? All of that. And we don't have to think about quarterback anymore. If you don't realize that Derek Carr is good enough to at least accomplish that for you, then you're just not paying attention. You're just not paying attention. And by the way, you're in such a small minority. I'm getting tired of addressing you. Because those of you who don't like Derek Carr and don't think he's good, you're in the small little minority of ignorance. And it's ignorance. And I'm not trying to insult you. I love some of you that are saying it. I love you. I think you're great people. You're great supporters of my channel. But it's ignorant. It's ignorant. If you look at his numbers and you watch him play, it's ignorant to say he's not a tier 2 quarterback. It's absolutely crazy and insane. You cannot throw for over 4,000 yards in the NFL multiple years in a row by accident. You can't. It's happened one season in the entire history of the New York Jets. One season in our whole entire history that we've had a quarterback throw over 4,000 yards. And Derek Carr did it 4 years in a row. How could we ignore that? It's not, well, you think it's some weird system the Raiders had? What? What did the Raiders have that made them so good? They didn't have a defense. He never got to be on the field a lot. He didn't get to have time of possession where the defense was getting the ball back a lot. He had no defense. He didn't have the luxury of mystery of a balanced running passing attack. Why? Because they were behind all the time. Because their defense stunk. So much a percentage of his career, he was coming from behind where they knew he was passing, which means they got to blitz, which means it was harder for him. You don't see the potential that if you give him a Breece Hall and suddenly we're a dominant running team and we say, hey, Derek Carr, you no longer have to drop back and shotgun half of your games for more than half the game, whipping the ball around, carrying the entire offense because we're behind. We're going to give you a good defense that's going to keep the game close and a dominant running game where you're going to get tons of play action, tons of one-on-one coverage with receivers like Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, and whoever else the hell we're playing. And by the way, I think we're going to restructure and keep Corey Davis because I don't think Corey Davis has any value out there in the NFL. I don't think he has a high enough value that we're not going to be able to figure out a way to restructure him. And I think that's exactly what Joe Douglas was talking about when he said we have money and that we don't have spoken for money long term. I think he was specifically addressing the fans and saying, stop thinking that Corey Davis and that Carl Lawson are gone because they're not gone. They might be gone. They're definitely in high risk of being gone, but they're not gone. There's a chance we're going to be able to restructure. He specifically said restructure. We can clear a lot of money restructuring. Who do you think he's talking about? Another restructure for Mosley? Possible. Who else? Who else is there? Laken Tomlinson? Possible. To me, Carl Lawson, Corey Davis, top candidates for restructure.
Two guys who, well, Carl Lawson cares about the team. He seems like that kind of dude that's going to take, like, wants to be here, wants to win with us. So he seems like the kind of dude that's going to work with us to make the team better. And then where's Corey Davis going at this point? At this point, he's going to be a journeyman pickup, WR3 anywhere else, right? Or a WR2 for a crappy team. Where's he going? Where's he going? He knows this system. He's here. His home is here. His life is here now. Why wouldn't he restructure? There's no reason why he wouldn't restructure. And he is worth something. I don't care if you like him or not. It's not that suddenly Corey Davis is not worth anything. I understand I think he'll have less drops with Carr, because that's another thing I think people don't understand. A quarterback that throws with touch has less drops. Receivers drop less of their balls. That's what she said. Mike Scott, The Office. Receivers do not drop it as much when the ball's not coming in at off speeds. Speeds that don't make sense. Speeds that, like, when the ball is rushed to them and they're thinking and doing more. But a guy like Derek Carr, if you watch the tape, it's all on tape. He throws it to them in stride. Makes it a lot easier for the receivers. And suddenly, off his horse comes riding in Tom Bon Jovi. He's tough, he's strong, he's guilty, I don't know. He's wanted, dead or alive. Please, for the love of God, we signed Carr already, and Rodgers is annoying. Now, I know that Jennifer Slattery would love to make a move and get Lamar Jackson. And the only thing I could say to that is there's just no time. Even if you like the move, whether you like the move or not the move, whether you think he's going to cost too much, no matter how you feel about it, there's just no time. We can't sit there and let the dominoes fall on the chance that Lamar Jackson is going to be gettable. Because understands a lot of what you're hearing when you hear Baltimore act as though they'd be willing to take calls for Lamar Jackson. When Lamar Jackson says, like all this talk that they're doing, it's all peacocking. That's what I call, peacock. It's all part of negotiations. It's all showmanship. We don't know that Lamar Jackson is available, and we don't even know if he's worth what the price would be. But the bottom line is, if Baltimore came out right now, and I think that if Baltimore really believed there's no way we can retain Lamar, seeing that Rodgers and Carr where they are right now and that the dominoes are going to begin to fall, wouldn't Baltimore come out right now very loudly and say, Lamar's in the game, make us your offers? Why would they wait until Rodgers and Carr are decided in somewhere and then you have less players in the game? Doesn't make any sense. They would do it right now. They'd say it. They'd tell the world, we are ready. And I think Vinny and the Jets nailed it, by the way. He's in the chat and he's saying Lamar won't get traded in the AFC, and I believe that. I believe that if he was traded, it would be a team like Atlanta or New Orleans or Carolina. And they would go right to the Super Bowl, probably. Good chance if they're able to retain some of their other players around them. He's an amazing player. And I don't know about right to the Super Bowl, but that division, how can he not own that division? I mean, it feels like you could put Lamar with almost any team around him, and he's going to own that division. Right? So, yeah, I also want to stay realistic. Like, it's not about, there's two arguments, right? There's, should we go after Lamar? And there's, would Joe Douglas ever do it? Joe Douglas is not going to go to the people who taught him how to be a GM. He's not going to go to his mentor and say, you don't think he's worth $50 million a year for 5 years, but I'm going to pay him that, and I'm going to throw in 3 number ones. That's not going to happen. He's built from the same cloth as those guys. I mean, look at who he is as a GM. He's not giving up $50 million and 3 first-round picks. He's not going to do that. He's just not. And maybe it's the right thing to do, and maybe it's dumb that he won't do it. I don't want to argue that anymore. I'm just saying, let's at least understand the general manager that we have running our organization so we don't have to turn blue in our face arguing over things that don't make sense to argue. Joe Douglas is not going to trade for Lamar Jackson. He's not. He's not going to go to the guy who taught him how to be a GM and say, you're wrong and I'm right. You're 3 first-round draft picks wrong. You're 3 first-round draft picks wrong. We are that far apart in how we value Lamar Jackson. You won't even pay him $50 million a year guaranteed for about 5 years with no sacrifice of first-round picks. But I'm saying that you're so wrong and so off on that evaluation that I'm willing to give him $50 million for 5 years and give up 3 first-round picks. There is no way. No way. Maybe McGadigan or whatever the hell his name was. I can't say the names of our former GMs. I don't even care. I'll admit it right now. I'm not enough of a fan to remember the names and know how to pronounce the names of our GMs. Maybe those guys would. Maybe they would meet him at the Roscoe Diner. They'd get the cheeseburger deluxe. Do they still do it with the 2 onion rings? You get the fries, but you also get a couple of bonus onion rings. That's why I love the deluxe. Maybe they would. But Joe Douglas will not. He will not. Just the fact that we were involved on the Tyreek Hill thing is shocking to me. And part of me still believes it was just done to push up the price on Miami. Really. Because to this day, I cannot believe he was going to be willing to give that much up for Tyreek Hill, as good as Tyreek Hill is. But maybe he was, because apparently we now have the money, or he says we have money. So maybe he would have. Maybe he would have. I don't know if it would have helped because we didn't have a quarterback to throw him the ball. And Garrett Wilson ended up being all we needed anyway. I'd rather have Garrett Wilson on the cheap for 4 more years and not have had to give up all that capital. And now we have Breece Hall because of that. And we have Jeremy Ruckert because of that. Or we were able to trade up and get JJ. So it all worked out better for us. But I just don't believe it. I don't believe that Lamar Jackson is worth talking about, only because I don't believe that our GM would do it. So you could sit there forever and say, you could sit there forever, but Joe Douglas would not do it. And people are ignoring my argument. Oh, Joe Douglas would trade picks for a stud. No, not that and $50 million. It's not just the picks. It's the combination. We're going to give you 3 first-round picks, which means we can no longer, over the next 3 years, acquire top talent, elite players as easily. It'll be very hard and difficult. Guys like Sauce Gardner, guys like Garrett Wilson, guys like AVT. That's out of our world for 3 years. Plus, we can't replace it in free agency because we're going to pay $50 million guaranteed to Lamar. And guess what? He's gotten hurt and missed the end of the last 2 years. So when Lamar is hurt, not only do we have less of a roster to put around him, but if he keeps getting hurt, then what do we do? We don't even have the kind of roster anymore that a backup quarterback can continue to win games with. But that's me. I don't even want to make that argument with you. I don't. The argument is you do not understand Joe Douglas, and you have not paid attention to the last 2 years, 3 years, and you don't understand his history if you believe he would trade 3 number 1 picks and $50 million a year for Lamar. And my proof in the pudding is he's not making the offer. He's not doing it. He's talking to Carr. He's waiting on Rodgers. He's not doing it. He's not even saying it's an option. He's not doing it. And of course he's not doing it because it's not who he is. Joe Douglas is built. It's not how Baltimore built their organization. It's not how Pittsburgh did it. It's not how Green Bay did it. It's not how New England did it. And we have done, it's not how Philadelphia does it. And we have done everything like those teams. Everything we've done is like those teams. You could clearly see strategies in how you build teams. It's very clear. You could look at the overall strategy and scheme of a GM. Our overall strategy is not to trade for big name guys. It has failed us for so long. Jennifer Slattery, you are screaming for us to fail. Fail! Do what we did with Le'Veon Bell. Do what we did we spent more money, number 2 in the NFL overall in the last 12 years on free agency. And it's gotten us no playoffs and misery. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. You can't trade everything and sacrifice. I don't care how important position quarterback is. The quarterback needs a team around him. How many Super Bowls does Lamar Jackson have? His best year was 4 years ago in 2019, and he didn't win a Super Bowl. And he's gotten a little bit worse each year. He gets injured now a lot. They have not come close to a Super Bowl because of that. And you're sitting here saying we should give up all of our draft capital and all of our money and have to cut 1 million players, and then magically he's going to suddenly be this guy that wins the Super Bowls? I don't understand that. I don't understand that thinking. Does he make us a playoff team? Yes. Does he make us much better? Yes. Is he super exciting? Yes. Is he one of the elite great quarterbacks in the NFL? Yes. But that's not only it. Yes, you need a quarterback, but you need other things to win Super Bowls. There's a lot of great quarterbacks. Josh Allen does not have a Super Bowl yet. Aaron Rodgers has played in this league for years and years. He has won in years and years. So having a great quarterback is not automatic Super Bowl. It's not. If there was a way to get Lamar Jackson on this team and keep our draft picks and just pay him the $50 million a year, I am on it all day long. All day long. All day long. But no way. 3 first-round picks? No. Look what we've done with our first-round picks. Look what we've done with them in the last 2 years. AVT, Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, JJ. Look what we've done. How could you possibly say that those picks aren't valuable or that we should give up our future picks and then dedicate all this money to a guy who's getting hurt? It's like you don't want Jimmy G, right? Jimmy G gets hurt. Well, Lamar is going down the Jimmy G path. Where was Lamar? Now there's a question of if Jimmy G, if Lamar could have played. They're saying Lamar could have played, and he didn't on purpose. Now that's smoke. It's not fire, but sometimes there's fire where there's smoke. I don't know if that's factual, but I'm not 100% sure. And if he did that, and you still want him, then you want that kind of football team. You want the kind of players that would abandon their freaking teammates and not play and pretend you're injured because you're mad about a contract. And it's like, and you can sit there all day and talk about the injuries not being serious and he's going to get better, and it doesn't matter. He gets injured because of his style of play. So yes, his ankle might be fine, but the style of play is not going to change. He is great because of his style of play. And it's not just him. It's fact. In the NFL, that style of play does not equate to longevity. It doesn't. Cam Newton's career was not long. It ended very suddenly. And it wasn't just the injury. It happened because of his style of play. RG3 career never even got started past his rookie year because of his style of play. Now Kyle Murray missed time because of his style of play. And why is Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen the exception? Because they're pass-first quarterbacks. Pocket quarterbacks who run when they have to, but not run as an essential as mandatory, like to make them great. Like Lamar Jackson, not mobile and not running, is not an elite quarterback. No way. He's good. He's good. He's much better than Kyle Murray. I'm not comparing him to those guys. He's much better than that. The reason Lamar is so excellent, what makes him so dangerous, is he's a great passer. He is. But not as just a drop back, stay in the pocket passer. He has to run. He has to use that part of his game. That opens up receivers, and then he takes advantage of his strong arm. It's not going to change. He's not going to be able to be great as a pocket quarterback. He's not, which means you could be completely healthy. He's going to get hurt again because in the NFL, those quarterbacks that run a lot and use it to be great, they get hurt. I know I hear what you're saying, Dom C, but you don't give up 3 first-round picks. You can argue 1 first-round pick and say there was a 50-50 of JD missing on that, but you don't give up 3 years of first-round picks because then you're taking away any chance in growing the team. Again, if you're paying Lamar $50 million, we still got to extend Q, right? Now you're tying up your money for 5 years for a guy who gets hurt. At least with Derek Carr, if he goes down, at least maybe because we didn't have to give all those draft picks, maybe we still have enough talent that with a Mike White level quarterback, whoever we replace Mike White with, whoever the number 2 is, maybe it's Zach Wilson, at least like Zach Wilson beat Buffalo. Why did we beat Buffalo with Zach Wilson managing the game? Because we had great talent. That talent, we will lose some of it. We will start losing some of that talent. Players will leave because we don't have the money to sign them. And without those first-round picks, we're guaranteeing that we can't replace them. Okay? It's not a guarantee that that first-round pick will replace them or will be great, and that happens, and that's why teams fall down levels. But we're taking away that opportunity. We're not even giving ourselves a chance. We're saying we're going to lose tons of talent because of the salary cap, and we're paying one guy so much money, and we're not even going to have the chance to have 3 first-round picks who are going to be potential great players to replace those players that we have to let go on the cheap. So we're putting ourselves in such handcuffs. But all of it is so, I don't know why I'm getting into this argument again. It's so stupid. JD is not going to do it. He's not going to do it. Joe Douglas, if he picks up the phone to call Baltimore, he's not offering 3 number 1s. He's not. It's like so stupid. Like, how can you think? How can you pay attention to this team? How could you follow this team, look at Joe Douglas, look at the moves he's made, and not know that he's not going to do that? It is clearly a definitive style of GM that would make a trade like that. It is a style, and Joe Douglas is the opposite of that style. He's the complete opposite. The reason we're having this discussion, the reason we're a quarterback away from being a real contender is because we are no longer the stupid team that signs big names for tons and tons of money and surrounds it with crap and ends up like the 2015 Jets. That's why we're where we are. Because we finally have a GM that's building a real foundation, a true foundation. And you can't build a true foundation by giving away everything to solve the problem at quarterback and then put them in a worse situation they were in Baltimore. The question is are we putting Lamar Jackson in a better situation than he was in Baltimore? Because 2019, he was the best quarterback in the NFL, and Baltimore didn't have enough around them to win a Super Bowl, and they were pretty good. They were pretty good. They were pretty good. So if your goal is to win a Super Bowl, or is it your goal to be good? Now, there's a chance Lamar Jackson stays healthy the rest of his career and never gets hurt again. There's a chance that he gets better. That maybe the coaches and the style of play hold him back. Maybe he goes to a West Coast offense like the Jets, and you don't even have to put as much talent around him, and he wins the Super Bowl. I'm not saying Lamar Jackson can't win a Super Bowl if he came to the Jets. No. What I'm saying is, the risk factor is so high. The risk factor is so high because of what you're investing. With Aaron Rodgers, it's about some draft capital and not crazy money, the way they can balance out the contract and make it work. With Derek Carr, it's a lot of money, no draft capital. With Lamar Jackson, it's the most money imaginable. It's guaranteed for years, and it's tons of draft capital. And there's rumors that 3 number 1 picks wouldn't even get it done. That they'd want Quinnen Williams, or they'd want Breece Hall, or Sauce Gardner, or they'd want talent. They'd want one of our great players. There really is. We've had Baltimore people telling us that. We have Baltimore people telling us that. Baltimore content provider, Baltimore Insider, follows the team passionately, says that he and most of his viewers, most of the Baltimore fans, would think we were nuts for making that trade. They would laugh at us. They would laugh at us for making that trade. They don't even think it's worth it. There's a lot of the Baltimore fan base that's angry he wants $50 million guaranteed for 5 years. They're angry that he won't just take $45 million, 3 years guaranteed, couple of option years. They're pissed off that he just won't be a team, won't do it. They're like, why does this guy think, like, why does he think he's number one? In 1 year, he was number one. That was 4 years ago. In the last few years, he's a top 5 quarterback. He deserves to be in the 40s. 45 million, fine. 44 million, 45 million, a few years. Because one team, the Cleveland Browns, decided to just stick a knife in the NFL. I think the owners, they're not allowed to collude, but I wish they would somehow. I wish there was a way they could privately communicate and say, let's put this thing that Cleveland did to bed. Nobody give in. Like, do not go there. Do not start guaranteeing 5-year contracts for $50 million a year. Do not start gambling your entire team on the health of one player staying healthy. I mean, it's just going to, it's, to me, that just kills football, man. Kills football. Like, I hate the reliance on quarterback. I hate that if a quarterback goes down, it has such an impact on a team. I hate that one position matters so much. That's bad for sports. That's bad for sports. Look what it did to us. For those of you who remember 1998, when Testaverde went down, it stole us. It robbed us of an entire era. Like, our entire rebuild with Parcells, everything leading up to us making a Super Bowl run was destroyed by artificial turf. Vinny Testaverde drops back and goes down untouched. And the difference, because of the importance of that position, is a backup quarterback, we were nothing. We were nothing. So I hate that. I hate that we have to invest so much. You know. And Big Al, the thing is that some might argue that Lamar is as good as Joe Burrow, even though he just has a different style of play. I don't even get into that argument. My argument is not that Lamar is not better than Burrow. My argument is Lamar's style of play is a lot more dangerous. And it's proven statistically, if you put a category of all the quarterbacks that have Lamar's style of play, like elite running back, and now he's the best of it, because I'm not saying he's not a great passing quarterback, because Lamar is a very good passing quarterback. That's why he's so special. But the reality is, what makes him the $50 million player that some are arguing is, what makes him the best NFL player is not if he's just in the pocket. If he's just in the pocket, he might still be really good. He might still be a tier 2 quarterback. But there's no way, if you take away the running and the threat of his feet, there's no way he still categorizes that high as elite, right? He loses because a big part of his game is his incredible eliteness as a running back, as a running quarterback. That style of play does not have longevity and often leads to lots of missed games and injury. Well, I'm not saying, New York Jets superfan, that he's a great passer, like a Dan Marino, Joe Montana, like Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre. Like, I'm not putting him in a category like when I say great. I'm saying him is, for a quarterback with that elite running ability, in that category of running back, he has one of the he's one of the best passing quarterbacks that can do that on his feet. And that he's good enough to still be a good, solid, like, pocket quarterback. Like, I think in the pocket as a quarterback, he's not Lamar Jackson anymore. He's not elite, but he's still a functional NFL quarterback. Like, he's a good enough passer. He's not going to be elite anymore. And it doesn't matter, because he's not going to become that. He's not going to change his game. There's no way. His instincts is to run. His instincts is to create time and to run and be dangerous and take holes and make huge plays. That's who he is as a quarterback, and that's great. I wouldn't ask him to change that. I'm just saying, as a team, trading 3 first-round picks and guaranteeing $250 million over 5 years, it's a hell of a gamble, and I think that we've come too far to put that gamble into one body, a body that plays a style of football that for the last 2 years, And he's missed. And I want the people who are big Lamar people fighting for Lamar. Why don't you address that? Tell me about the 5 games he's missed at the end of the last 2 seasons. Tell me that it's convinced me that that's not a concern. Convince me it's not a concern. He's missed the last 2 seasons. Baltimore's had no chance to be a Super Bowl contender because of Lamar's injuries. How do you guarantee $250 million over 5 years and tell me that that's not a concern? Like, explain that to me. I need to understand that. I need to understand how you could just ignore and blow off the fact that he can't finish a season the last 2 years. Why you'll argue that Jimmy G is injury prone. With other players, when it's convenient for your argument, you'll sit there and say that injuries matter. But now magically, it doesn't matter that Lamar's missed 2 seasons. Like the end of the last 2 seasons. How does that not matter? I'm not saying it means you can't get him if we got him for the right price. I'm just saying, how do you not acknowledge that? Like, I acknowledge the concern of Aaron Rodgers, that his heart might not be into it. I acknowledge the concern of Derek Carr. What if he keeps turning the ball over? What if he really can't play in the cold? I acknowledge that. I acknowledge the concerns of every player. I acknowledge that Jimmy G. I'm just simply acknowledging that Lamar Jackson has gotten hurt the last 2 years, and he has regressed. He has become a worse. His numbers, his play has went the opposite way. It has not improved. He had the freak year in 2019, and he has consistently been a worse quarterback year after year after year. Still great, but not going in the right direction. No reason for me to believe he's going to be better than he was the last few years. That's what we're getting. And I don't think that quarterback is good enough if you're giving away 3 first-round picks and dedicating $50 million of the cap to him for the next 5 years. It's not that I don't think JD thinks that. I don't think JD is that kind of general manager. He's just not. Accept what you have. And I'm not going to argue because JD has rescued our organization, whether people want to see it or not. He has rescued our organization. I could not spend the last 2 years talking about the Jets if it wasn't for JD. If we were the 2017, 2018 Jets, I would not have been able to do it. No freaking way. Thanks for the super chat. John Nolte, my good friend. He says, don't forget, Jeremy, draft prospect show tonight with Dom C. Great stuff. I'm not going to forget. 9 o'clock tonight, we are definitely going to be on with Dom C. And we're going to have our show, and we're going to rate the top 3 prospects. So that is going to happen tonight. And get ready for it. Be excited because we're going to be looking at the defensive tackles, and there are some really good ones. It's not as deep as other positions in the it's not as deep as the other. It's not as deep as edge. It's not as deep as it's not as deep as cornerback. It's not as deep as tight ends. But that doesn't mean there are not some special team players that will be available in round 1, round 2, round 3, and even round 4. Round 4 is a little bit more, a little bit more potluck. It's a little bit more of a darts, a little bit. But there are some guys that we know would be decent. The second round, if we decide to go defensive tackle in the second round, because we believe there's going to be plenty of good talent for center, let's say in the third round. Let's say that's JD's thinking. There is a lot of talent at defensive tackle in the second round. I mean, really good compliment to Quinnen Williams. Like a solid guy to have, right? So we'll go over that tonight. We'll learn those names, and it's good, fun, exciting stuff. I think I saw Dylan here. Yeah, looks Lamar will. What does it say? Oh, Lamar will, however, make you one of the 6 to 8 teams that is a true contender. I agree. His skill set is rare and longevity isn't on his side, but his value makes him worth more than a Watson. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree 100%. There's no doubt about it. No matter what we gave up for him, if we have Lamar Jackson, it's 6 to, because I was talking about how important the quarterback position is. But I just want to do it in a way where we still have a chance to win a Super Bowl, where I could believe that we can fill the other holes around them to win a Super Bowl. Like, yes, I want to be a playoff team. Yes, I want to be a contender. But if in 10 years I'm looking back at it and we got Lamar Jackson and for 5 years we made the playoffs and we never made it to the AFC Championship game or never got to a Super Bowl, there's that. But that's true for anyone. Anything we do, I'm going to feel that way, to be honest. But I'm just more concerned that would be the case with him. That he would make us just good enough to be a contender, but, bridesmaid, but never the bride. That's my concern. I'm hoping we can get a quarterback that gives us the chance to win the Super Bowl and gives us the flexibility that if they're not, we can shift out of that quarterback and get to another quarterback and try still in this process of having these players. And the only way to do that is if JD keeps filling the pipeline with draft picks. So this way, as we can't hold on everybody and as we lose them, if JD can keep bringing in really good talent, we can keep this going of having this good machine of a really good team. So it's not just the next quarterback that will have another shot and another shot. Like we'll be able to go 10 years, JD, solid GM, constantly bringing in great talent, keeping a strong team. That always, if we could find that right quarterback, and if it's Derek Carr, okay. If it's not, then when we move on, the next guy comes in, but we're not a complete new rebuild. We still got a really solid team, like Baltimore, like Pittsburgh, like that. I want to be like that. We stay good. We stay competitive because we are constantly have a good team, and we constantly can take new shots at new quarterbacks. I feel like, if you go for a guy that makes you give up tons of draft capital and money, you risk that. And you hurt the roots of the team. You make the team very fragile. Like you're very top heavy. Oh, you have the star quarterback. You have Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. But then you get very top heavy, but you have very weak roots. And it's very easy for the team to fall apart from under them. I don't want that. I want a solid team with strong roots and strong players in depth. And then we find that magical quarterback, that the guy who's going to get us there. But maintain that strong foundation. Be an organization that maintains and stays solid and strong. That's always looking for that piece. And once in a while you find it. Baltimore, I saw them win a Super Bowl. Over 20 years, I've seen them win a couple. And I've seen Pittsburgh win a couple. Seattle's like that too. Look at Seattle. They lost Russell Wilson, went to Geno Smith, but their foundation is strong. Last year was like that 1 week year, and they bounced right back to competition. That's been Seattle for how long now? I want to be that kind of team, that kind of organization. If we become that kind of organization, our break will come. We will hit, and we will get that ring. But going for it, sacrificing the future, and going all in, has never worked for us. It's never worked. Since the start of free agency, that was the killer. That's been the killer of the New York Jets because it's hurt us so much more than it's helped us. Because our philosophy is buy the Super Bowl. And it doesn't work. The only sport I see that working for is basketball. What Miami did and then what the Lakers did, you could buy championships in basketball. Because there's such a small group of elite players that are just so much better than everyone else. And if you can join 2 or 3 of them together, nobody can touch them. It doesn't even matter who the other 2 players are. You just get role players. So anyway, it's so funny that we're fighting over Lamar Jackson. We spent so much time fighting for a guy who's not even going to be available. It's so funny. It's just living this weird dream. Like, let's pick other great quarterbacks in the league. Why don't we get Burrow? No, let's spend hours talking about why we should get Burrow as if it's an option or if it's going to happen. I know they're having trouble, and they say in the media. How many times have you, as a football fan, heard the 2 players are far apart in their negotiation? Like, we're acting like it's never happened before. Oh my God, Baltimore and Lamar are far apart. And both sides are saying they're not going to budge. I've never seen that before. I've never seen two sides work out that situation before. It's like, please, people, please. He's under contract. They still have the tag. How long do they have? I think they're running out of time to put the tag on him. If they don't put the tag on him, maybe I have to bow my head and start acknowledging there's more of a chance. There's more of an opportunity that Lamar Jackson's not going to play for the Ravens. But until that put the tag on him deadline runs out, yeah, it's not going to happen. We need to draft a franchise. See? So we can have that foundation. We need to draft a franchise C? What does that say? Did you mean to say we need to draft a franchise C so we can... I think you're saying quarterback. Oh, center. Sorry. Yeah, I think that we can get a really good center. Everybody's saying center. I'm so retarded. I'm so stupid. Okay. I think that I agree that I really want to take a center, and if he's there in the second round, I'd love to grab Schmitz. But I do believe that Luke Weipler could be there in the third round. I believe that there's other guys that could be good centers. There's no guarantee of these things, right? But I believe that there are, we don't have to 100% get a center in the first or second round to get a good center. And in the NFL, that was never required. Like, if you look at great centers and good centers in the NFL through years and years and years, you look when they're drafted. You don't have to. I do think that would be the benefit of a trade back, like with 13. If somebody makes us a really sweet offer to go back to like 23, 24 in the draft, you need a partner to do that. But I'm saying if that was offered to us and it included an extra second or third round pick and a first round for next year to swap, which is all very reasonable and could happen. Especially if there's like a quarterback that slips to 13 that a team really wants. I think that would be the best scenario for us, because then if we had that extra pick, it would be much easier to fill our needs. Like, we can invest, we could use that pick to get the center, or if we take the center like Schmitz, we have that pick to still get a safety, and then our other third round pick to get a linebacker. Like, we could still fill those holes and those needs. So I agree. We need to get a center. But I know he's not the most popular Jet, and and he's not Mawai, and he's not like, he doesn't live up to that. He's not like that freaking rock that we all love. But the reality is McGovern, I don't know if I agree with it, was rated like top 5 center in the NFL. I think if you want to get rid of the arguments and the rating systems and be honest and say, without argument, what could you confidently say he was? I don't think it could be argued that, and I know this would be hard for people to hear, but I don't think it could be argued when you take all the information that Connor McGovern was a top 10 center in the NFL. Like, believe it or not. Which is why we're probably not going to be able to retain him. It's probably why we're not going to be able to retain him, because literally he's projected to make 10 to 12 million a year. So as we're sitting there saying, it's like when people say, well, why would the Raiders get rid of Derek Carr if he's so good? Well, people are going to say, why did the Jets just let McGovern walk? Because our trash, apparently, or what we don't like so much, is another team's gold. There are 15 teams out there that would jump at the chance to sign McGovern. I don't know at that money, but they would love to have him, because he's better than 20 of the centers that played last year in this league. So, and maybe it's because there's just not a lot of dominant centers. Maybe you could be the 8th best center and you do your job and you don't allow a lot of pressures or sacks. But what we want in the center, and I know where you're coming from, because what we want, we got spoiled with, and what we think and feel we deserve is we want a center who not only, it's not just about, it allows less pressures or this or that. We want a mauler. We have had 2 guys in this organization that have played center that are maulers. They literally push people backwards. They create big holes. They pancake people. And it's hard to see that as a Jet fan when you have that for two different players' careers. It's hard to then watch a center who doesn't push, who doesn't create space, who doesn't have that movement, but yet is good enough to be called a top 10 center because he doesn't give up pressures or like he doesn't have the beats. It's like, but as Jet fans, we want a guy who can push the middle, right? And I'm going to put this up because it's relative to what we're talking about, and I love this guy's opinions, so I value his opinions so much. So I'm gonna put this up because I agree with it, not because I was smart enough to come to the conclusion myself. I agree with it because of this guy, and he's convinced me. And that is that we don't have to go for Schmitz with the first pick, with the second round pick. We can get Luke Weipler or Whippler. I think it's Weipler. And it turns out that he's a diehard Jet fan, that he loves the Jets. It's his dream to play for the Jets. And I love those stories because you know that the passion is going to be there. You know that his heart's going to be in it. He's not just a guy looking to get drafted for any team and make money and blah, 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 and play football to make money. He's us. But he has incredible talent and skill and strength and has the ability, instead of us to just talk about it, he has the ability to physically go out there and help do it. So I agree. I would love to get this guy. Can you imagine if we got this guy in the third round? Unbelievable. Maybe we trade back in the second round if we're not sure he's going to be there in the third. Maybe we trade. People forget that. You could trade back in the second. If Weipler's the guy you want, Wiper, and you don't want to take any chance that you don't get him, but he's the guy you definitely have to get, you could trade back and gain lots of more draft capital, fill other holes, move back a little, read the board, grab them, and now you ended up with a pick or two to address other needs. You know, so that was the smartest thing I said in a long time. It even got me a bingo from Tom C, my biggest critic, my biggest supporter, my biggest friend. I say critic because he loves me and he wants me to say things that are right. So look, that would be a great pick. But the bottom line is we do need a center. I would love to take a crack or a shot at a center that gives us the opportunity to do more than just, I don't want another McGovern. I don't want another guy who's, yeah, he's good. He's okay. He doesn't allow sacks or pressures. He's okay. I want a mauler. I want a guy that can also be very, very, what do they call that? The ability, I lose words sometimes, the ability to snap the ball and then slide over, and run around and make an end block on a safety or something. What do they call that? When the center actually runs, in space. But there's another word for it. When they actually, instead of staying straight, they literally on the snap take off to the left or the right and then make a block on the number at the end of the dashes. Like what am I trying to say? A guy that has that ability. I think Weipler has that ability. We've seen tape of him doing that, where he snaps the ball. Yeah, pulling. I hear someone saying pulling. Yeah, that kind of. But not just pulling, but like literally, he doesn't even block anyone until he gets there. Like he literally runs to the left or the right and then makes a tackle. But people are saying pulling, so maybe it's pulling. Okay, I'll use that word. But you guys know what I mean. Like it would be nice to have that kind. And Matthew said the same, power stepping. It'd be nice to have that kind of center. A center that we could really play around with, right? That we could really make things happen with, use as a lead blocker, get out there into the second level. I know Dom says that a lot. Blocks into the second level. How about that? And the nice thing is center is an undervalued position. And when you have a position that is undervalued, you can meet that need in a later round. And it has to be. Some positions have to be like that because it can't be every position needs to be addressed in the first round or you're not addressing the position. Like it's impossible to build a team that way. And we see it because we see really great teams that have built their teams not on first round picks. But when you look at their history, you look at those third, fourth, fifth round picks. And my example has always been to go back to the 1980s and look at the San Francisco 49ers draft picks from 1979 to 1985, and to look at the New York Giants draft picks from 1979 to 1985, and look at their third, fourth, fifth round picks, and you'll recognize the names. And if you don't, you can look them up, I guess. But like if you look, you'll see the Giants with in the third or fourth round getting a guy named Oates. I think his name was Oates or something. You know who that was? That was one of their solid offensive linemen, like really, really good. A guy who did maul people, pancake people, a guy who did protect the quarterback and create an open pocket. They didn't have to use first round picks to get those guys. And that's why I get excited when, Breece Hall, second round. I mean, it's still early, but still second round. If Breece Hall is elite top 5 NFL running back, like superstar of this generation, and we got him in the second round, that's laughable, right? But there's others examples out there. Who else we got that's been good? Michael Carter II, solid pickup for where, that's how you build championship teams. Those are the key moves. When you get guys like that, contributors like that, when you get Quincy Williams off the garbage heap, when you get Quan Alexander super cheap, when you get Bryce Huff, undrafted free agent, when you're able to get those kind of guys without using first and second round picks, then you combine them and you hit your first, second round picks. That's when you're building championship teams. Now, it really helps to hit on quarterback, which we didn't do, which makes our road a lot harder. Cravat Attack. That is my channel, guys, with my brothers. Me and my brothers have a channel called Cravat Attack. Status update. Cravat Attack channel art updated. Cool. I have to take a look at it. You guys can take a look at it too. For those of you who don't know, the Cravat Attack channel started as a hot sauce channel where we rate and the heat level and the taste, the flavor of hot sauces. And it was a lot of fun. And it was a lot of pain, and it was a lot of not fun, because I am not necessarily a person who has a high tolerance to heat. So as some of you know, so it was very painful for me. And I used to actually get anxiety before our shows because of the sauces that we would actually eat. And if you want to see it, you can watch us eat those sauces. But here's the big news. And I think it might be early as Tuesday. We have a new set of videos. We're building up a bank of videos that are not hot sauce. We're reviewing restaurants, and not restaurants, all food. So that means food that you get at the supermarket, like ring dings. I'm going to do a review of a ring ding, or a pizzeria that's local to me. I'm at the pizzeria eating pizza. You guys know the deal. Food review. So it'll be lots of restaurants, lots of things that you take home from the supermarket, maybe like frozen pizza or something. This is the best frozen pizza in the world. Things like that. And it's not the three of us together. It's the three of us. Sometimes it might be when we're together, we might do videos together, but you could watch reviews that I'm giving in my area of the world here in California. You could watch reviews that my brother Lee is giving and my brother's put the link in the chat. You could hit that link and subscribe right now. We'd greatly appreciate it, because these videos are going to be great. I don't want you to miss them. I already have a couple of videos that are up there ready to go. Me reviewing some of my favorite pizza. My brother Lee is reviewing barbecue in the Portland area from a food truck that's one of the best. And Matthew is reviewing North Carolina restaurants. And he has some reviews that are up and more that are going up. So they're entertaining. They're fun. If you're into food, if you like food, I will ask you to definitely go to this link. Look in the chat right now. My brother put it up, and just sub to the channel. Watch a couple of the videos. Right now, there's none up there but the hot sauce ones. You might enjoy watching me suffer, watching my face turn red, watching me be in pain. But really, look for the food reviews. They're coming within maybe the next 48 hours. You're going to see a bunch of them pop in there, and there'll be at least 2 a week for the foreseeable future. And I hope you guys enjoy that. So that's my promoting my other channel. I would appreciate the support, guys. And again, it's not just for me. I really think people are going to like it. I think it's really very entertaining, very fun. And yes, Lee Cravat will be part of that channel as well. Sal is not an indie. Put it together. What is that part of, Snoopy? What are you saying when you say that Sal is not an indie? What was the point of that? That's obviously a response to somebody. But what does it mean? I think it means that he was sick. He wasn't feeling well, so he didn't go. Aaron Rodgers lost to the Lions, Green Bay, for a playoff spot. He did. He lost a big game. I don't know if he lost. The team lost, but he didn't play. He played good. He had some great moments in that game, but he also did not do it in the clutch in the fourth quarter. He had a big third down touchdown where I said, oh, yeah, that's Aaron Rodgers. He was not the same guy last year. People saying it's the receivers. People saying it's because his thumb was hurt. I mean, but the reality was, no matter what the reason, he was not the same player last year. The Green Bay beats Detroit almost any other year of Aaron Rodgers' career in that game because Aaron Rodgers wins those big regular season games. He brings Green Bay to the playoffs year after year. Now, he's had some issues winning games in the playoffs. You know, he didn't look great against the Niners. What did they lose 10-3 2 years ago? Like, it's funny how we choose, like, selective memory, though, right? We choose to forget that. We choose to forget that Aaron Rodgers put up a big 3 points or something against San Francisco in Green Bay in a home NFC championship game and lost it. He's lost a bunch of championship games. A bunch. I see that Jennifer sub. Thank you so much, Jen. I appreciate it. Even after I argue with you, you still support me and do it. I love that we can respect each other and be friends and everything, even though there's some certain things we passionately disagree on. I promise I'll never call you delusional again. Watson is a bum. I don't know if he's a bum, but I'd be very concerned if I was Cleveland. But he was, he hadn't played in 2 years. I mean, give him a full offseason. Let's see what he does. Hard to call him a bum. He was really good when he was in Houston. It's hard to argue with that. If you watch him play, he was really good. Jeremy, I'm saying that A-Rod came to New York on Friday and Salah was not in Indy. Oh, wow. That's interesting. I'm not a rumor guy. You know that. I like to go with factual information and stuff. But if he was true, if Aaron Rodgers was in New York, and that's an easy thing, I'm sure people take pictures. If he's confirmed in New York and Salah happens to be sick and not in Indianapolis, I'm going to sit there and I will say I'm not going to sit here and be so sure. I'm not going to dismiss that as being relevant. I will not sit here and say that that's not a meaningful thing. Like, that's interesting. That really is. That does pique my interest. But look, something's got to happen. It's Snoopy. A decision has got to be made. Like, we're in crunch time now. He's got like 4 or 5 days. You can't go right to the end because we need time to negotiate, whatever the decision is. Now, the decision may have come in and the negotiation might be happening, whether it's for Carr or Rodgers. So I will say that. We don't know that a decision hasn't been made. We don't know that. A decision may have been made. If Rodgers decided not to tell anybody, nobody knows. Maybe right now, Green Bay and the New York Jets are in heated negotiation for what the trade is. Maybe we have a trade deal worked out with Green Bay and we're in a contract restructure with Aaron Rodgers at this moment. Maybe right now, Derek Carr is like literally 2 hours away from signing a contract with us. Like, the moment something happens, the moment Ian Rappaport says this happens, is the moment that all the moments right before that where things were happening that we had no idea were happening. So that moment could be any moment, which means right now we have no idea what's happening. I just want it resolved, guys. I'm exhausted. Although I don't know what I'm going to talk about once it is resolved. I mean, I guess we'll have to talk about the quarterback we have and fight over that. Like, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be us fighting. We're all going to fight. Half of the Jet, not half, it depends on who we get, but like there's going to be Jet fans that are in the screaming how stupid Joe Douglas is and how he blew it. And there's going to be fans screaming that it was the great move and we're winning the Super Bowl. Then there are going to be fans that just fight and yell at either side that's being extreme because they're in the middle and they're just, they're more of the pick it, whatever you say. But I'm exhausted for this. I just want a quarterback. I'm sure most of you feel the same way. I want our quarterback. I want to know who it is. I just want to be able to start visualizing the team. I want to know which draft picks, if we had to give up, we gave up. I want to know so I can redo mock drafts. I want to see, like, am I going to have to trade 13 every time to recoup a lost second round pick to still get our guys and still hope and pray that Joe Douglas makes that move? Even though we're never right about those things, and Joe Douglas for the last 2 years has shocked the hell out of me. But I want to know. I want to have a vision of what this team's going to look like. So, Tigo is confirming that Salah was sick, although he didn't look super sick during that press conference. Tigo, I will say that he didn't look super sick to me. He was smiling and talking and looked fine to me a few days ago. So, New York Jets fan is here. What's up, brother? What's going on? Good to see you. Got some new people, some new names. You're saying WTF Brissett? Look, I think Brissett is a top tier backup quarterback. I do. And I think he might be good enough to start in the NFL and be like, I mean, obviously his stats show that DVOA has him as a guy who could be a starter in the NFL, but something's missing there. I mean, Cleveland has a pretty good roster, and I didn't feel like it was his fault they were winning, but he wasn't exactly putting the fire into them to make them a winner. Like, why wasn't Cleveland better? Look at the roster they have on. Maybe their coach stinks. Because I just can't believe that if you didn't put a great coach in Cleveland, if Sean Payton was in Cleveland and you had that roster, even though it's Jacoby Brissett, if you look at Jacoby Brissett's numbers and the level of play, because, by the way, Brissett's level of play was more competent than any Jets quarterback last year. Like, if we would have had Jacoby Brissett and that competency at quarterback, we would have maybe made the playoffs. We would have had a much better year. But I don't know if he's the guy you want. Definitely, without question, the best backup quarterback in the NFL, or maybe, arguably. Like, if we signed a veteran quarterback and Brissett, wow. Like, any team that has Brissett's the kind of guy that if somebody gets hurt and he has to come in and play 2 or 3 games, if you have a good team, it will give you a solid chance he will hold the fort if you have a good team, for sure. But something is just not right with him because he wasn't able to, for whatever reason, he just wasn't able to do it. And he had a pretty good team around him. I see jokes about Tom Brady. I don't even want to entertain that. Well, there has been that virus going around. It's been all over my school. People I know have had that virus. I don't know if I had it, but I did have some issues a couple of weeks ago. So there is something going around that's only 24 hours. And we should wash our hands all the time. Wash your hands. Wash your hands of everything. Forgive yourself. Eric Craig is in the house. What's going on? Joe S., you think sounds like Carr, so you're convinced it looks like we're getting Carr? Maybe Salah ate the same fish that Mims ate. It's possible. Nah, that's not possible, actually. Look, I see someone saying that Carr wants to play for the Jets. Jets gang. That in itself, whether we end up with him or not, is an amazing thing, isn't it? Like, what an amazing, amazing reality. Like, if that's true, that Carr wants to play for the Jets. Can you imagine 2 years ago any quarterback wanting to play for the Jets? I mean, looks like Brisket might be starting. If you mean Brissett? Depends on who gets him. If I'm the Chicago, if I'm the Carolina Panthers, yeah, Jacoby Brissett would probably be the best guy on that roster. I don't know. Sam Darnold might get one more chance, guys. Sam Darnold might get one more chance. He actually played okay, I think, in the last couple of games. Then he has these horrible games, like puts up a stinker. But he might get one more chance in Carolina if they don't sign anybody. If they don't get anybody and they end up drafting a quarterback, they might not go with the draft pick right away. They might let Sam Darnold roll for a little bit. Let the rookie sit, depending on who they get. I mean, it's like we've become such a crazy league in like not letting forcing quarterbacks to play right away. I mean, I grew up in an era where quarterbacks were allowed to sit. They were allowed to develop. They were allowed to watch a quarterback play from the sideline. Salah's stomach. But you know what's Yes, I know it's killed that. Free agency and having the 4 to 5 year window is what's killed that. Salah's stomach loosened when Jackson named his price. Jackson named his price. We're not talking to Lamar Jackson. We're not allowed to talk to him. We're not allowed to talk to Lamar Jackson. I guess you're allowed to get permission, but I don't even know if you're allowed. I think even with permission, you have to wait until March 13th, don't you? Oh no, permission is permission. I'm sure. You have to be allowed to talk because Rodgers is under contract, and we're gonna obviously Green Bay is gonna have to let us talk to him before we make a deal. I did not see it. I hear this name Benigo. He doesn't pop up on my feed. Sometimes it looks like a guy. It looks like me in 30 years. Right, that's what Joe Benigo. Is that the guy? Because I see sometimes on the thumbnail Benigo this, and it looks like some ugly me, like an uglier, older version of me. Maybe not as ugly, maybe not uglier, maybe the same ugly because I'm ugly. So ugly's ugly. I'm an ugly guy. So it's like this other ugly bald guy that he seems to cause a lot of controversy, but he must be doing something right because we all know his name. So even though he seems to be associated with people hate his guts and he's crazy and he's nuts and I hear all these negative things about him, but yet at the same time, I would love to have the following he has. I'd love to be able to impact, what am I here doing now? I'd be amazing if something I said would be like 1 million Jet fans knew about or 300,000 Jet fans talked about. Whether it was good or bad. Can you imagine having that kind of influence? I mean, wow. So I don't know much about the guy, but man, love him or hate him, he's super, super successful. So whatever he's doing it right. Now, I don't know if I have it in me to say the controversial things. I don't know. You got to be you, right? And I'm not a person that, unless it's just naturally controversial and I say it, I'm not the kind. My strategy isn't what can I say that's controversial to get me lots of attention. I tend to go the other way. I tend to rather than worry about growing and getting more people to watch me and saying controversial things. The part of me that's worried about offending people and saying something stupid and being a joke and killing my channel is bigger and stronger than the part of me that is willing to say controversial things just to get big. Now, I don't think he built his legend on that. From what I understand, he's been around for years and years and years and years. I'm just saying, I wish I could be that guy as far as his reach and his fame or his size or whatever. But I don't know that I have it in me to do it because it feels like he's a guy that's willing to say some pretty messed up things, like some pretty controversial things that I don't know if I have the guts to say. And I don't know if he means it or really feels that way. And for me, you guys know, I have to only say things I really feel. I can't pretend to have a take that I don't believe to be controversial and get more views. I have to really believe in the view. The furthest I'll go as far as clickbait is I will give a title or a thumbnail that only the question mark makes it not a lie. I'll say Carr to the Jets, question mark. The question mark is what I'm using so people can't say I'm a liar. Because I'll say, I didn't say Carr to the Jets like it happened. I said Carr to the Jets, question mark. But to be honest with you, you have to do certain things to get people to click. My goal is not here to not grow. My goal, I'm totally honest about it, is to grow. I want to grow my subscribers. I want to have more viewers. I want more people to watch my videos. And that means that I have to find ways to make people want to click because that's the game. That's how YouTube works. So for all the people who yell clickbait, you asshole, or, first of all, it's not clickbait because you will not find a video that has a thumbnail that has or a title that lies. There's no thumbnail I have that says Rex Ryan says this with Jets Chaos, and then you go in and there's no Rex Ryan. That doesn't happen. There's no lie. Do I build up the title? Do I try to use big words and then try to sneak in a question mark so it's not a lie? I'm guilty. But please understand, the goal is to get clicks. That's the goal. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm here putting so much time in it. Can you really blame me for wanting people to actually click on it? So I don't blame these guys. I don't blame them, but I will not follow him. Like, I'll only follow him if I believe what he's saying is real and from the heart. Like, yes, I understand why some people lie and they put out controversial takes. And I get it, and I know the game, and I know that they want lots of clicks, and they're trying to make a living, and I get it, and all that. So I don't outwardly attack them or anything like that, and I'm not going to. But when I make my choice of who I listen to and who I watch guys like O'Leary, and I watch Green Bean, and I watch Buffalo, and I watch, those guys. And Frankie, when he was doing videos, I watched him because those guys don't do that. They're not throwing controversy out there. They're not just going for your click. They're not lying. They're not being misleading. They're building their brand through truth and through honest takes. And that's like everybody has to make that decision of who they are. So I don't know how I got into that, but that's just me. That's what I'm saying. So you guys are Rich is saying hit that like button. Thanks, Rich. Tigo's in there. I sent Tigo the link. I don't know why he's not here talking with me. I asked him if he wanted to be here. Sometimes he just likes the chat, I guess. Super Leroy Richardson is moving us in the draft now. Richardson is moving up in the draft now. Oh, Richardson. Is he yeah, that's what always happens, right? And that's good for us. We want the quarterbacks to show up. We want the quarterbacks to be amazing. Like, that's what I was hoping for yesterday. We want them to be fast. We want them to get people excited. We want them to become hot and grow and move up the charts. We want 4 quarterbacks picked in the top 7 picks, 8 picks. That's what we want. We don't want 3. We want 4. Every quarterback chosen is a positional player, a non-quarterback positional player that slips down to us. So that's what we want. As many quarterbacks, as many edges. Let as many edges go in the top as possible. Because even though I'm not against taking an edge in this draft, I certainly don't expect to take one with the first pick at 13. And I don't expect there to be a guy that we're disappointed in goes at edge. So to me, it's like, let wide receivers go, let edges go, let quarterbacks go, but mostly quarterbacks because that's the safest. Because I know we don't care about that. I know we don't care about quarterback. The other positions I could be wrong about. Okay, one that I don't think I'm wrong about. Cornerbacks. Let the CBs go. Let 3 cornerbacks get picked. Let 3 cornerbacks and 3 quarterbacks get picked. Let's take up 6 spots at least with guys like that. And that's only good for us. And here's a guy who will add his 2 cents to what I just said. He heard what I said about the link. What's going on,
I remember that you sent the link. That was 2 hours ago. I didn't have internet. I have been without internet for 38 hours. And
Wow.
our internet came back an hour ago, and I was doing like school stuff because I was behind. I had to catch up. And then I totally forgot you sent the link, and I saw that you were open. So I was like, hey, let me just hop in. And then you mentioned it. I was like, he did send me the link. I think the combine only helped Jets fans, or the Jets specifically, because Anthony Richardson is now, whether you believe it or not, he's now in the conversation to be the first quarterback taken off the board because offensive coordinator egos are insane. That's just the reality of it. You don't find a guy who tests that well ever. You just don't. And I don't have him as QB1. But there's going to be that I thought he was for sure a top 10 pick, probably going to go at 10 with a team trading up to go get him. I don't think he makes it past the Raiders. Here's the real thing. You know who had everybody had a really good day yesterday except for Bryce Young. And all of those guys skyrocketed up boards. So I have no idea who's going to go in what order or in what way or in what shape or anything like that. Because if you tell me, you know what, CJ Stroud goes 1, Will Levis goes 2, Anthony Richardson goes 3, and Bryce Young goes 4, I'd be like, that makes sense to me. If you said Bryce Young goes 1, Will Levis goes 2, any one of these guys can go in any whatever order. And it's great for Jets fans because we're not taking a quarterback this year, no matter what. And the more guys that go up in that top 5, that top 10, top 12 is going to be a benefit for us. And it forces teams who may not have been looking quarterback to look quarterback because these guys are so good. So you look at guys like teams like Tennessee who should take an offensive lineman, right? If Anthony Richardson is sitting there and you're telling me that this raw prospect can sit 1 year behind a Ryan Tannehill and develop, and he's already right now better than what Malik Willis is. He's a better athlete and everything. Like, and there you go. There's your 1-2 for the future and your starter and your backup. Like, they're going to have to look at the quarterback position seriously. Vegas, who was the other team that would have taken an offensive lineman, they're going to have to look at the offense at quarterback seriously. Carolina, who's at 9, might have to trade up to go get their quarterback. And so you keep looking at this, and Jalen Carter with his thing, which is horrible that all of that stuff happened. He's going to fall down boards, which is going to make people want to come up to go get him. These edge rushers skyrocketed up boards. Like, this is all really, really good. For me, the one person, because I didn't agree with you on this take until the combine happened, is I think the cornerbacks shot up boards. Gonzalez tested so well that, like, a team is going to look at him. Like, I look at, like, the Steelers and they go, would they want to come up to 12 to go get a cornerback? Would they want to come up to 13 to go get a cornerback? Would they, you know what I mean? Like, that's a really interesting, like, dynamic to look at. And so I'm really interested to see how things play out.
So Just Fam, Frankie from Flatbush took a break from YouTube because of changes in his work schedule. He is okay. So a lot of people like CJ Stroud is the best quarterback. Look, I think every year. I mean, so even I think, like, do you think Young? Do you think it matters if he doesn't show well in the combine? Maybe he slips past those. Maybe those guys jump him, but he still goes top 5, right, or top 8.
He will be a top 10 pick. I
Right.
don't know where. For me, Stroud is QB4. Not Stroud. I'm sorry. Young is QB4.
Mm-hmm.
My order goes Stroud, Levis, Richardson, Young.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason Richardson is above Young is Young is by far a better polished quarterback. But the problem is 5'10", 185 is his playing weight. That's the problem. I don't care how much he measured or weighed in at the combine, because that doesn't anybody can just binge on donuts and get to 200 pounds. Your playing weight is what matters. And my biggest concern will always be what happens when Young takes a Matt Milano hit right to the chest. Mike White is 6'3", 225, and he broke ribs after getting hit by one of those things. Top 10 teams don't have great offensive lines. What happens when one of these guys comes downhill and just bends him in half? You know, that's my biggest concern. And so that's why he's not as high up on boards for me, is not because of the talent, because I think he is by far the most talented guy. It's durability. I don't think he's going to have NFL durability. And I have a really big concern, not with his height, but with his size. He's slender. It's the same concern I had with Devontae Smith. It's the same concern I have with the wide receiver from last year's draft that went to Detroit, and why he wasn't wide receiver 1 on my board. They're slight. They look. My biggest concern is what happens when Minkah Fitzpatrick comes running up across the middle and, and just lays him out. And you can't hit guys up the middle like that anymore. But that's just the thing that I look at and I go, I'm concerned about. And Gohan makes a great point, which is I was going to say, that was my biggest concern. Devontae Smith doesn't take big hits. They scheme him open, and he doesn't take big hits. This is a great example of a small guy playing at the next level because he makes sure he doesn't take the big hit. That's a great example. But as a QB, you don't get to control that. If a linebacker's coming from your blind side, if an edge rusher's coming from your blind side because you're on a bad team that doesn't, like, if you go to the Texans have a horrendous offensive line, right? Let's say he's the number 1 quarterback. The Texans straight up to 1, they take Bryce Young. They have a bad offensive line, just straight up. They have one guy that matters, and that's Laramie Tunsil, and that's it. So what happens when Quinnen Williams bumps up the inside and just bends him in half at 180 pounds? Quinnen Williams is like a solid 310, 300 pounds, and that boy can move.
Yeah. Good points. Good points. And what do you think of? We talk about these quarterbacks. Just curious to you, where do you think if he never got hurt, if he was completely healthy, where do you think Hooker would have been? Herndon
Third
Hooker,
round.
like in third round?
He was Hendon Hooker, if he stayed healthy, if he was taken in the first, because there was a lot of conversation of that, was going to be a reason a GM got fired and sent to the XFL for the rest of his career. Like, Hendon Hooker is not an NFL prospect, in my opinion, like at the quarterback position. It just doesn't make sense when you're talking about a starter. Now, if you're talking about a guy that's going to hold a clipboard, Hendon Hooker could probably do that. You know what I mean? But it all comes back to like, yeah, it's my biggest concern, Green Bean, is the size. I'm super concerned about it. Like, I know what happened. Like I said, my biggest example is just going to be the Matt Milano hit. Mike White is what, 6'3", 225 pounds, and he broke ribs. What happens when that guy doesn't have anywhere near that much mass? It's concerning. Yeah. It's an interesting dilemma to have. He's going to be the guy in this draft class that I'm going to hone in on the most, because one, whatever team he goes to is going to be really, really important, but his durability is going to dictate for the rest of forever whether or not you can take guys that small at the quarterback position. You know, if he can be durable and he doesn't have these injuries, he can do all of those things. But back to the Hendon Hooker thing. Hendon Hooker is just not, yes, Matthew Smith, size does matter. Hendon Hooker is just not a NFL caliber prospect in my eyes. He is going to need a lot of time to get acclimated to an NFL game, because the scheme that Tennessee, like, okay, I'm talking from a place of experience here. The offensive coordinator for Tennessee used to be the head coach for UCF. For those of you who don't know, I am currently a UCF student and have been a UCF football fan for years. I am intimately familiar with that offensive scheme. And ironically, he runs a weird combination of an offensive system. He runs a wide zone running scheme, which is great, because what does that mean? Running backs and offensive linemen are going to translate to the next level exceptionally well. But when it comes to wide receivers and quarterbacks, he runs a wide, I guess the best way to say it is like a wide combo set. So what he does is he puts two wide receivers on the boundary, and at college, when you're not facing NFL caliber teams, what that forces teams to do is you either shift into man coverage to cover the wide receivers, and you're not going to keep up with Jalen Hyatt, so you're at a mismatch there, or a linebacker has to shift over and cover a wide receiver, and that's a mismatch. So he forces you to have a mismatch no matter what when it comes to the wide receivers. Now, that doesn't take away from Hendon Hooker. He has an incredibly good arm, but he's throwing to guys that are open by a mile.
Well, we got somebody else who wants to weigh in on Herndon Hooker. Maybe, or maybe he has no comment. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stream, Green Bean.
Yeah, I have no comment. I just want to say hello. Tigo's doing a fucking great job, man. I'm just listening. I'm doing my prep. Generally speaking, I would record the podcast yesterday, but Jacob Finnegan had me thinking that last night we were going to sign Aaron Rodgers, so I didn't want to record my whole thing and then have to so I waited till today, and now I'm just doing that. But I'm just enjoying listening to you and Tigo. You sent me the link, so hello. I just want to say hi. Tigo's rocking it.
Yeah, I went on a couple hours ago just to talk for like 30 minutes, and I was going to go down and get some coffee. And then everybody just came in, and it just kept going and going and going, and we're over 2 hours now. So
we call that green beanitis. You got green beanitis.
And I got a show tonight. So
that's right. That's right. You and Dom C. What position are you doing tonight?
Defensive tackle.
Ah, yeah.
Very fun.
Tackles.
So good. So the one thing I will say is there was a tweet put out by I forget who it was. Just all the quarterbacks that had similar numbers 40 times and anything to Anthony Richardson. I think one did anything in the NFL. So you got to be careful.
Yeah.
I mean, you of course got to factor this stuff in and potential and all that stuff. Anthony Richardson would be really great to go on a team with like an older quarterback, somebody that's going to be there for a little bit.
Tennessee.
And they can actually develop, taking him in to like, one of these teams and expecting him to just be the guy, dude, you're asking for it, in my opinion.
No, that's absolutely true.
It's fucking scary. Like, you still have to look at the college tape. You got to do that. And a lot of analytics guys, they just forget. They're like, oh my God, he's everything. He's 6 foot this. He weighs that. He does. Look how high he jumped, 40.5 inches. Oh my God. And they just draft him and he sucks.
Anthony Richardson, in my opinion, is going to be the perfect example of the staff is going to dictate whether or not he's a good quarterback, because he has all of the tools. He doesn't have any major red flags when it comes to his game. And he was on a horrible Florida team. So if you can, and this is a big if you attribute the numbers in college and how he looked in college to a bad college football team, if he goes to a system, just like you said, Green Bean, I look at Tennessee and I say, how do you pass up on Anthony Richardson? You're telling me a year or two, you keep Tannehill, and a year from now, you're going to have King Henry and Anthony Richardson in the backfield after Anthony Richardson can just sit there for, that's a serious threat. You look at something like that. But I have a big fear that you look at like a team like the Vegas Raiders, and they're going to look at it and they're not going to get Aaron Rodgers. They cut Carr because they're dumb, and they're not going to be able to go get an Anthony Richardson, or they're going to get Anthony Richardson and then they're going to ask him to start immediately. And it's just like, hey, you know what? Maybe we'll do what Tigo said in that one show that one time, because we all know that McDaniel is listening, right? Because he's not creative enough to come up with his own ideas. That, we're just going to do it with Josh Jacobs instead of King Henry. And it's just like, that might work for a little bit, but the kid really needs to sit for a year. Like, he is
I agree.
the epitome of a guy who's not ready to start immediately, but has like insanely high upside.
Right. He's the perfect guy. Like, so much potential, but dude, don't throw the world on his shoulders yet. More than likely. And who knows? Maybe he rises to the occasion. I mean, of course, right? There's always anything's possible. But it's like, right, you don't want Josh McDaniels to go, I got him. Just give him to me. I got him. Like, that's a recipe for disaster. I see Phil Adams in the chat says Richardson to Detroit. That makes sense to me.
That's a great example,
right? That's a good, that makes a lot of sense to me. That's good.
Yeah, you can hang
anyone
around.
Who has like a veteran quarterback, like that's who is very clearly looking for the next thing. Like, I can't think of those names off of the top of my head, but like, whatever team has that guy in who has a guy who's going to be there for at least a year, they should be looking to trade up to go get AR-15. But like, teams like, I have a buddy who's a Houston Texan fan, and he wants the Texans to stick and pick at 2. He doesn't want them to trade up to 1 because his biggest fear is that it's going to cost 12 to trade up to 1. And he's like, I'd rather have 2 picks and then get this, like, he really likes his quarterback class. And he's like, my number 1 guy is Anthony Richardson. And I go, I love Anthony Richardson. He's not the right pick for Houston. That's just not right.
Yeah,
you shouldn't take him. You guys don't have an offensive line. You don't have the offensive weaponry. You don't have like anything that's going to be able to support this kid. And what's going to ultimately end up happening is he's going to bust, because you guys are the New York Jets West. That's it. You're the middle. You're Midwest New York Jets, right? You're the Houston Jets. You hired a young play caller who has no play calling experience. Hopefully your veteran play caller that's supposed to be your offensive assistant is going to stick around and be there to help your guy, right? Because unfortunately, we all know what happened with Knapp and all of that stuff. But like, Houston needs to take one of the guys that's ready to start now. So like, for me, the only option for Houston is Young, it's Levis, it's Stroud. And if I'm Houston, I'm hoping to God that we can get Stroud, because Stroud is QB1 in my board, but I would trade up. I think it doesn't cost 12 to go from 2 to 1. And that's what I would do.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Hmm.
It's right. I agree, man. Houston, like you can't. It's really tough to put it all on Richardson, in my opinion. It's scary.
Yeah.
But listen, I got to run. I just wanted to say hello. Good stream, man. I'm enjoying it. So yeah, keep it going, man. Rock on, dude.
Nice
Rock
to
on.
stop by, Green Bean. Nice to
Yeah, I'll
stop
see you
by.
guys later.
All
Have a
right,
good one.
bro. Yeah. Look, well, look, it's just good news to me. Like
Yeah, no,
whether
it's all good news.
you know what's the wrong move or right move at the end of the day, more quarterbacks the better that go. The more cornerbacks that the better that go. Now, I wouldn't mind one of the 4 quarterbacks slipping to 13, though. I wouldn't mind it being 3 and 1 slipping to us either, because in that case, it might improve the trade value of our 13th pick. Because by the time if it somehow happened, because maybe the teams before us just don't want to deal, right? Because like Tennessee wants that offensive lineman, they're desperate for it. So maybe it comes down to us. And at that point, it might become fire. Like it might be 2 teams absolutely at war with each other, fighting to trade down. And, you can throw the balance off of the point system and the value system
For
when
quarterback.
you have an emotional situation and you have 2 teams, let's say, that want to trade up and grab that quarterback. And that's what can get the Jets possibly into a situation where we fleece somebody. And we don't only get their first round pick for next year, but we get a second or a third this year.
Yeah, it's a very interesting dynamic, because now I don't know how closely you pay attention to the news coming out of like New England, because New England picks 14, right? So they pick right after us. But there has been conversation that like Bob is willing, if the right package came in, Bob would be willing to let Mac Jones go in a trade, because he doesn't believe that the gap between Bailey Zappi and Mac Jones is that big. And so they'd be willing, if the right offer came in, to let Mac Jones go. Now, if there's a quarterback there at 13, I'm not saying that New England is interested in a quarterback, but there is at least a conversation that you can now have with teams. Like the real benefit that the New York Jets need to look at is, one, offensive linemen need to fall so that we can just stick and pick at 13 and hopefully have our guy there. But if the offensive linemen go, like we need the wide receivers to go. Like that's it. We need how great would it be if Houston took a wide receiver at 12?
Oh,
How great would that be? If Houston kept 12, trades up to 1, they go get their guy, which I think should be CJ Stroud. They get Stroud, and then they double down and they say, we're going to take the first wide receiver off the board, whoever that is to you, but they're going to take that guy. And everybody knows New England needs a wide receiver. And now 13 becomes a hot commodity. And if you add into the mix that a wide receiver gets taken at 12, and there's maybe even still the possibility that one of these quarterbacks is there at 13, oh, let the phone calls come in. First round next year, maybe, sure, yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah.
Like, and that's in a perfect world, that's what you want. Because
I think that we were in a mode the last 2 years, obviously, that JD was in the mode of get the superstars. We need stars on this team. We need big impact players, right? And he went out and he did that. He got us the big impact players. Now I think, if I'm him, I think it's logical to say now we have to keep the pipeline filled. Now, right now, we have to keep feeding the pipeline good players. Where are all the role players going to come from? All those guys that might not be Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner superstars, but solid role players. How do we do that? How do we keep that pipeline going a long time, year after year? And it would be, to me, what a perfect position, especially because it might be the last time we have like a 13 if things go well. What a perfect time to say, if that's the case and people want to give us a haul, to sit there and say, we can go back into the low 20s. We can still get an impact player that's not so far off the guy we can get right now. We can still get someone to really help this team. Add a second or a third round pick to help us address some needs with solid role players, and We go into next year with those 2 number ones. So we go back to the flexibility of what that would bring us next year. Incredible flexibility, because you can combine those 2 picks and move up. You could take one of those picks and move back and increase the trade again, the draft capital.
It's
But it
all
gives
about depth.
so
I think
much
you said
power.
it perfectly. Yeah, I think you said it perfectly. It's depth. We don't need starters per se. We do, right? We need offensive line starters. We need a defensive tackle starter if we don't bring back Rankins. But like, the real thing that we're looking at is we're looking at supplementary players. We've got to start transitioning into the LA Rams model of, we've got our big stars, you know what I mean? After we've got our number 1 corner. We've got our number 1 wide receiver. We've got our number 1 running back. We've got, whether you like him or not, we've got our number 1 middle linebacker. We've got our number 1 defensive tackle. We've got guys that can accumulate up to be a number 1 edge rusher. And I still believe JJ is going to be a number 1 edge rusher. So like, when you look at all of these things, we've got a lot going in our favor when it comes to things like that. But where do we need help? Well, we probably need a safety. Don't need a superstar safety, but we probably need a safety. We know we need linebackers. And so I look at it, and I think you said it perfectly. Like, imagine we trade out of 13. Let's say we go from 13 somewhere into the middle 20s, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we get a 1 next year and a 3 this year. So now we have an extra 3rd round pick. That gives us a lot of flexibility, because we all know what's the luxury of this draft. It's really deep. It's not top heavy. It's deep though. There's one elite player in this draft, in my opinion, and that's Jalen Carter. And that's it. He's the only elite prospect that I have. Like elite. And outside of him, we have a lot of really, really good guys, but I mean a lot of them. And in the 3rd round, you can get 2 linebackers in the 3rd round. You get a safety and a linebacker in the 3rd round.
Yeah,
you get a DT in the 3rd. When you have 2 3rd-round picks, you have so many options.
That extra 3rd round pick, just like you said, that extra 3rd round pick that we would trade for would translate to potentially a linebacker who either starts year 1 or definitely by year 2, solid long-term starter, a safety that would be a starter, for the next 5 to 8 years or whatever. It could be where we grab our center, right? The way the draft works out. I mean, it's value. Like that 3rd round pick will translate, like what you're saying, because of the depth of the draft, that top 100 guys. It will translate to true and very real value for this team. And we still get whoever we get at 23, 24, wherever that pick would be, we'll still get a guy who's not that far off what we'd get from 13, arguably. Like, we might end up with the better guy. We might end up with an Anton Harrison. I'm just giving examples. DeJuan Jones, or, like whoever you like, Darnell, let's say it was a tackle. And that tackle might end up being the same or better than the tackle we could have taken at 13. It's possible.
Yeah. There's a lot there. There's a lot of opportunity in the middle rounds of this draft. There's a lot of players that, like, New York Jets fans are going to fall in love with in the middle rounds, that we're going to follow their careers. You know what I mean? Like, I think a great example of that is being in Florida is I'm going to follow Chad Muma's career, because how much did we want Chad Muma last year? You know what I mean? How much did we fall in love with Chad Muma last year?
Yeah,
or a guy that I fell in love with that I'll never stop following his career is Creed Humphrey, because I wanted the Jets to take Creed Humphrey in the 2nd, and then we didn't, and now he's the best center in football. Like, you see that all of the time, which is just like, there's these guys that you fall in love with, and you're just like, hey, you know what? I'm going to follow these. And there's a lot of these guys that you're going to look at in this draft, and you're going to be like, you know what? This guy's not going to be a superstar, but I'm going to follow his career because I want to see if I was right. One of those things that's starting to pay off is, like, I really liked Max Mitchell last year. I also really liked Malcolm Rodriguez, and he's on the Detroit Lions. I wanted the Jets to take him in the 6th. He was there in the 6th. We took Michael Clemens instead, and don't get me wrong, I love Michael Clemens. But if we had, like, let's say we didn't trade up for Brees, and I'm not saying that was a bad pick, like, maybe one of those picks could have been Malcolm Rodriguez, and now we're not talking about linebacker as a need, because we have CJ and we have Malcolm, and then You bring back Quan and you can let Quincy walk because you're comfortable not paying him $7 million, and you can let Quincy go to Houston. And it's just like, that's the thing that you look at and you start to build up. And we've spent 3 years. Well, we spent 2 years tearing it down and then 2 years moving up and getting our guy. And we want AVT, we're trading up for AVT. We want Brees, we're trading up for Brees. We want JJ, we're trading up for JJ. You know what? And doing all of these big moves. And now we're starting to see what that mentality does to you, because now we don't have the depth. Now we don't have DT depth. Now we don't have linebacker depth. Now we don't have safety depth. We don't have offensive line depth because we spent getting all these big name ticket guys, kind of like what New York Jets fan 4 said. We did it. The Rams traded up for proven guys, NFL guys, and that's absolutely true. What the Jets did was we traded up for young guys that we were going to prove worked. And for a lot of that stuff, it worked. Now we've got to fill out the bottom end of our roster. We need linebackers. We need safeties. We need offensive linemen. It would not surprise me if from now until Joe Douglas dies, because that's the only time he should not be the general manager of the New York Jets. If we look at all of those things, I would not be surprised if we take a defensive lineman and an offensive lineman every single draft. Just every draft you take one.
Yeah, I mean, look, at some point in the draft, you just keep that pipeline filled, unless they all keep hitting and then you just don't have enough room for them on the roster. But yeah, I think that we are at that point where we could start thinking about, again, it's about depth now. It's about filling spots. It's about you don't need to fill it with superstars right now. That's not what this team is needing. The team has superstars. The team needs to get quality level safety play. The team needs another linebacker in the pipeline, a young guy where they can play and contribute right away. We need that. We need a defensive tackle if we don't re-sign Rankins. We have to keep that defensive line strong. We need that center. We need that offensive tackle. We need to continue to build there. Some people will even argue that if we don't restructure Corey Davis, we definitely need wide receiver. We have needs where we don't necessarily need. We have Garrett Wilson. We don't need WR1. Nope. It would be nice to have another WR1.
We don't even need WR2 in my opinion.
Right. Not even W2. That's not the need though. So if you could take that 13 and turn that into a first round next year and an extra pick this year, get that 23rd pick, whatever it is, and get that extra third round. That's what works for this team right now.
Yep.
Fill in more of those depth needs, just what we're saying. And then next year, that's just a powerful chess piece, that extra first round pick. You go into next year with 2 first round picks, and you're continuing to be able to have the flexibility to go either way with it. Do we need that extra superstar? Or do we need even more depth? Maybe we missed on a few and we need to do that again. So now we can take those 2 number ones, use one of them to gain more of a haul and gain more second and third rounders next year and continue to just build the depth of this team. It's a beautiful plan in my mind, in my opinion, unless there's a guy you can't resist, unless they absolutely feel the way you do about Pete Stromkowski and he's there. And then you want to run to the podium and grab that guy because you believe he's going to be AVT on the other side, or he's going to be a tackle that's a Pro Bowl tackle, and you just want to grab him and lock him up and say, look, that's what we have to do, to assure that we're going to have this incredible line to protect these special players. We could live either one, but it's going to be hard if he runs up there and he grabs a great player at 13 like that. Mm-hmm. It's going to be hard to argue that. I think the thing is usually fans get mad when you trade back in a draft because it's the least sexy thing to do.
Yeah.
But I think if we do it this draft, I think the educated Jet fan is going to understand it and be happy with it as long as we get a nice, tasty early third round, something like where it's like 70, 72, like whatever that pick is, like something like that's well into the top 100, just out of the top 50. That's going to get us that nice quality depth piece.
I think the more and more I look at this upcoming draft and this off season and the players that are available and blah, 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 you know what I mean? All of these things, the more I look at it, the more I think that the New York Jets aren't in the market for a tackle, I think we're in the market for an interior offensive lineman. I would not be surprised if day one of the, free agency hits. We already have the quarterback situation. I would not be surprised if when all is said and done, that the New York Jets go out and get a guy like Pochich out of Cleveland. Ethan Pochich, out of Cleveland, and you bring him in. Why? Well, because he can play center and he can play guard, and he's going to be cheaper than what McGovern is going to drive, right? He's 27 years old. He's pretty average. And then that gives you so much flexibility with 13, because if you can trade out of 13, even if the tackles are there, and you can move back. And we've all fallen in love with this player, but like, if you want him, you have to take him in the first, and that would be John Michael Schmitz. Like, what happens if you take JMS in this, like in the 20s, which is probably where he's going to go at this point, right? And now you're looking at it and you go, well, JMS can play center or guard. Pochich can play center or guard. We've got Laken Tomlinson. We've got Elijah Vera Tucker that can play tackle or guard on either side. And it's just about that flexibility. Elijah Vera Tucker gives you so many options with this pick at 13, because let's say you do stick and pick and you take Peter Skoronski. For me, he would be best suited at right guard right next to Elijah Vera Tucker at tackle. That's, I think, the best situation.
And if Becton doesn't work out and he's not healthy, you have Dwayne Brown, or you have Pete. Like in an emergency, he could come out and play tackle.
And the other thing that, like, a lot of, like, you could also move Elijah to left, and then Max can come in at right, or Dwayne can come in at left and you keep the right side okay, or you move Elijah to the left, or you move Pete to the left, and you can slide in it gives you a lot more flexibility, because now you've got these guys that can move across the offensive line. And now a place that you are concerned about, which is the offensive tackle position, you've got essentially 6 guys on the roster that can all play the offensive tackle position, because you've got Mekhi Becton, Dwayne Brown, Max Mitchell, who are all true tackles. But then you've got guys that are kind of tackles, right? And then you've got like Elijah Vera Tucker. He can play tackle at a high enough level that you can trust him for 17 games there. If you take Peter Skoronski at 13, you can trust Peter Skoronski at tackle for 17 games. And now you've got, these guys that can all play that. And so that's why I look at a guy like a Pochich out of Cleveland as a really, really nice target in free agency, because he has the option to play center. He has the option to play guard, and it really gives you a lot more flexibility, because you're not forced in to a tackle. You can just take the best offensive lineman, whether that's a center, whether that's a guard, whether that's a tackle. You just take whoever's the best guy that's worth that pick whenever it is that you decide to take that pick.
Yeah.
And that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, and that's why, see, I love that we can live with both scenarios. Like if Pete's there at 13 and they decide to take him because of his versatility, there's no argument from us. Nope. If he trades back and we get a tackle like Anton Harrison or something like that, and more draft haul, there's no argument with that. Like, we're in a good position. Yep. We're going to become a better team this draft. And I trust it, because some GMs we've had in our history, I wouldn't feel that way. I'd say they'll find a way to blow it. But I don't think Joe Douglas is going to blow this. Like, I feel very confident he's not going to blow this. We're in a good position. And look, I'm looking forward to that draft. Free agency first, because things might change. We have to see who we resign, who we cut. They could cut Whitehead. You don't know. That won't happen. Yep. Like, I'm not saying I think it'll happen. It could happen. It saves us $7 million in cap space. It might be the thing that allows us to do some other move that is critical. And then we go into the draft having to think about safety, like where there's no choice. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm saying my point is that free agency might change the discussion of this draft, depending on what happens.
Yeah, because like, what happens if in this free agent period we go out and sign a tackle and a center? Now offensive line is solid, right? 13 is wide open.
Changes everything.
It changes everything.
Changes everything.
What if all of that, like, again, money is eventually going to come in here, but we all know that the salary cap is fake and they can figure it out. But like, what happens if you don't cut any of the wide receivers? They all agree to restructure. And this is a lot of what ifs, right? So wide receiver at 13, probably not a real option, right? And then you go out and you get, let's say not starters, but you get an interior offensive lineman at center, like a Pochich. I think he's going to cost $6 million, which isn't a lot of money. It's exactly what McGovern is making right now, which is absolutely fine. No, McGovern made 9. So again, whatever. You bring him in for 6, and then you bring in an offensive tackle as just like a depth offensive tackle kind of guy who can play, but you don't necessarily want to play. And so you're just like, you know what? We've got 5. Fantastic. And then you go and you say, boom, we go and we get Tremaine Edmonds at line. Like 13 gets wide open. You know, 13 blows up because Brian Branch is okay. If you wanted to take him, I don't know how comfortable I feel with Brian Branch as a single high. Like, I would feel much more comfortable with Brian Branch if you cut Whitehead. But then, like, you've got all of these different ways that you can move, and 13 gets wide open. And then you're going to see me really pounding from the mountaintops that if we were to have an insane free agent period kind of a thing, you're going to see me trade out of the first hunt, like entirely. Just get out of the first round.
Yeah.
You don't need to. You don't need the first round this year. Save the money on the books. You don't need the first rounder this year. Move out of the first round. There's so many. How many picks can you get, seconds and thirds and fourths, in this year's draft for a team coming back into the first that doesn't have another first this year? You'll get the first next year, a second next year, a second this year, a third this year. Like, you'll get so many things. And while that may not be the sexiest thing to happen, like, if all things work out in free agency and, you know, Dwayne Brown, who is looking more and more likely like he's coming back, is willing to restructure, and Braxton Berrios takes less money to stay here, and, you know, we don't cut Corey Davis and we keep him because he's on an insanely friendly team deal. You know what I mean? And Whitehead is willing to restructure, and we go out and we get the center that we all want. Like, whatever his name is, we get Lindsley because he gets cut from the Chargers because he's going to be, they're $20 million in the hole and they need to pay Herbert soon. And you this and that, and all of the things work out. And now you're like, this team is semi-complete. There's so many options. And this is why it's very exciting, because we're going to know what our quarterback situation is in a couple of days, hopefully. And then the free agency is going to happen like the very next week. And so there's just going to be a lot of stuff to talk about.
Yeah. That's going to wrap it up, guys. I got to make way for the other Jet content providers. So some people might want to start covering the combine and thing like that. I realize they might be waiting for me to get the hell off, because we like to not overlap each other, and we have a lot of respect for each other. And I don't want that. I don't want people to feel that they can't come on. And I tell them, just compete with me. Come on. And if people want to watch it, they will, but like, they won't. So I'm going to get out of the way and clear the airwaves.
Hey,
you know,
breaking news.
Mm-hmm.
Dwayne Brown is coming back to the Jets. It's not an if.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Paul Boy Green, I think it's Rich Cimini.
Wow.
Yeah, he is coming back.
Okay. Big news, guys, right here. Big news. That's big. Dwayne Brown, tackle, coming back. And it's just what you were saying. That might change the mindset of where we have to take a tackle. Now we might be looking at those second-round offensive tackles and saying, we don't need a plug-and-play starter. We might be thinking that. We might be thinking that we might not need a plug-and-play starter. Maybe, yes, we still have to fill the pipeline, but they might be thinking Dwayne Brown's going to be the guy starting the year. We have Becton, we have Max Mitchell, Becton, and Dwayne Brown, and that might be enough for them to have the confidence to say, not that we don't take a tackle at all, but that we don't need to use a first-round pick on one. Now, that could still be dependent on whether Pete is there, because Pete could be an internal, because of the versatility of Pete Stamkowski. He could go, Skoronski. He could change everything. Yep. But it's just a perfect example of what everything you were just saying, Tigo. The fact that we're keeping Dwayne Brown changes everything.
Yep.
Right? Or could make a major change in the board for Joe Douglas, because he knows that position now has another solid guy to it that's going to give us at least one solid year.
Yep. And the thing is that the Brown played exceptionally well for a guy who had one arm. Imagine he has had his surgery, he's recovering, and apparently per the news he is expected to be the left tackle. Like they're penciling him in at left tackle right now. Now, I don't know how a 39-year-old Dwayne Brown will compete against a hungry Mekhi Becton, but I feel really comfortable now with our offensive line. This is huge news.
Huge news. So, guys, if you want great content, great videos, subscribe to Talking Jets with Tigo. Do it. His videos are awesome. His insight's always honest. He'll give you takes you agree with, takes you disagree with, but he'll get you thinking. He's the best. You heard all the great value and content he's brought to this show just now. He's amazing. He has a channel. You don't have to wait for him to pop up on other people's channel. Go subscribe right now. If you're not subscribed to Jets Chaos and you're out there listening, hey, hit the sub button. Do me a favor and sub to the channel, and you'll get more of this if you liked it. I'll see you guys tonight. I'll be on tonight at 9 o'clock with Dom C to cover the defensive tackles. Tigo, thanks for coming on, man. You really were awesome tonight. Today. Awesome job. And with that, we go to this. Oh yeah. Go. Amazing. That's my boy. He
breaks away from a sack and completes the pass for first down.
Kittle just may have made the most amazing catch.
He fights for the first down and gets out of bounds too.
It's no good. Overtime. Oh, what a catch. How do you drop that? What are you, Jamal Adams? Touchdown.
This is a touchdown all the way.
He reached over the pylon. San Francisco beat Cincinnati.